Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening. We'll call to order the April 26th Select Board meeting to order. There's one change to the agenda. We're going to move in reports in section 8, the short-term rental work group update. We usually do this every time when they're here. We're going to move it right after the follow-up comments from prior Select Board meetings. Libby, announcements?
Thank you. This meeting is being video and audio recorded. This weekend on Saturday and Sunday, there will be a seedling giveaway at the landfill while supplies last. Hopefully between 8 and noon, but again, while supplies last, this will be in the Murph area. And we do have a Arbor Day proclamation for 2023. If one of you would be so kind as to read it.
Be happy to read it. Usually I make Brooke do it. But she's remote. Whereas so this is the town of Nantucket's proclamation for Arbor Day. Whereas the National Arbor Day Foundation has declared April 28, 2023 as Arbor Day. And whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas the citizens of Nantucket recognize the importance, historic, environmental, and aesthetic qualities which trees provide. And whereas the Select Board supports the protection, preservation, and propagation of all town-owned trees. And whereas the town of Nantucket desires to enhance awareness of Arbor Day on the island community, with the island community. Trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important role trees play in preserving our unique island heritage, we, the Select Board of the town of Nantucket in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim April 28, 2023 as Arbor Day in the town of Nantucket. And we urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and so to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Signed this 26th day, April 2020.
Thank you so much. The 2023 annual town meeting will start and hopefully conclude on Saturday, May 6th, starting at 8:30 a.m. at the Nantucket High School. And we are issuing the town manager e-news for April tomorrow, and it is entirely dedicated to information about the 2023 annual town meeting. The annual town election is scheduled for Tuesday, May 23rd. That election, the election hours will be for voting will be from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. again at the Nantucket High School. And we have a number of committee, board, and commission vacancies coming up. There are timelines for application submittals and reviews before the board and when applicants can speak and board will review. All of this is on the town website, and we encourage anybody who's interested in serving the town or volunteering for one of these boards, committees, or commissions to please check it out and apply for something.
Thank you, Libby.
That's it.
Any Select Board announcements or comments to start off? I have one. So I have some questions to get started with. This is to the public, to everyone here, to everyone listening. Do you like going to Stop and Shop and buying food? Maybe not always, but do you? Do you like going to the post office and having somebody wait on you so you can mail something? Do you like somebody taking your blood at the hospital and need to get blood work done, right? Because you have a medical issue. Do you like somebody filling your propane tank in the winter? Well, we need housing for people to do these things. Town administration got this in the mail today. It's a bumper sticker or some kind of sticker that says, if you want affordable housing, move to Cape Cod where you belong. I don't think it's funny. I'm sure people are trying to goad it. Somebody thinks it's funny. it is insensitive at best. And I just don't understand why you would think that when there are like third generation Nantucketers that are in affordable housing here and have a family and they're secure and safe. And so this kind of stuff, I'll stay professional about it, but it really infuriates me. Of course, it was anonymous. Like no one's going to say who did it, but I just don't think that's funny. That's what I wanted to open up with. And anything you do here, think about if you want to continue to do it, even the little things, because people need to have housing. And this isn't the only answer, but it's a main one.
Jason?
Yeah.
I learned about this just a few minutes ago, and I think I am both angry, but mostly sad, because I think of Nantucket as a caring community of diverse community in so many ways, and that diversity includes socioeconomic diversity. And we have jobs that range from entry-level pay all the way up to business owners, senior executives. And every member of our community, regardless of what they earn, is a valued member of our community. Folks coach teams, they help their neighbors out, they made masks during COVID. We are, I believe, a community whose intention is to care for one another. And when we think about excluding some segment of our community, either because they quote unquote can't afford to live here, that makes me really sad. And I've worked hard, as you all know, on trying to create an adequate supply of housing for people who want to live and work here, whom we need to live and work here, who are invested in the community, who want to stay, grow their families here. And that attitude makes me, expressed in that bumper sticker, makes me mostly sad that there's still people in our community who feel as though some people in our community somehow should be voted off the island. They are part of us. We are all part of us. And this is a huge problem. We've known about it. We're working on it, and we should continue to work very hard on it to make sure that our community thrives with all its members, regardless of their ability to afford our real estate in an open market.
Thank you, Brooke. Anyone else?
It's like people do these things in a complete vacuum and don't put any faces with it. And I mean, just even in my own family, I'm the oldest of 5. My family has been on Nantucket since the mid-70s. 3 of my siblings are natives, and 2 of them do not have permanent housing. I mean, thankfully 3 of us do, but it's not people who moved here yesterday. I mean, it is 2, and they're just as qualified to be part of the community, but it's across the board. And that's not even a solution. Who's gonna work in a restaurant and commute to the Cape? Who's gonna pick up your laundry at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is what Holgate's Laundry does? Not by the boat.
I think they've all said it well.
Thank you, Malcolm. There's nothing else. Move on. Follow-up comments from prior select board meetings. There are none. And we're going to move the short-term rental work group update. I believe, is Stacy here? Nope, I don't see Stacy. Brooke, did you attend the last couple or watch them? Do you want to give just a general update if Stacy's not here?
I am not fully informed. I did attend the most recent meeting. I do understand. What I can tell you is that the data consultant has started to make presentations and have conversations with the work group. I don't really have a lot of detail.
Okay.
I can shoot Stacy a text though.
Okay. If she comes on a little bit later, if she has time, we'll maybe get her on. Oh, there she is. Hey there, Stacy. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, I'm on. All right.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. So wanted to give you all an update from the short-term rental working group. We had our 11th meeting last night. Yeah, last night. And I think, so last night we heard from Process First, the data consultants, who gave their initial round of data that they've collected from all of the platforms and from the state registry, and was really informative to the group about the rough number of active registrations. And they walked through a number of different ways to be presenting information and got more clarity on the group's priorities of what they wanted to know. And they're going to be prepared to present in greater depth at our in-person meeting next Friday, or next Thursday, sorry, where we're meeting actually in person in Nantucket. And then we spoke a little bit about a public statement that the group was really interested in making, and refine the language. And so I today did a revision of that language to make it into a one-pager. And the group would like to try and get that out. I'm going to try and get that to the media. But they were interested in hearing how it might fit with the public statement that you, the select board, might be making around waiting on short-term rental regulations for the special town meeting in November. And they were also interested in making it into a handout that they would give out at town meeting on that Saturday, signed by at least 2 voters, but probably signed by the majority of the committee. The committee has really made a lot of progress since last I think I've spoken to you. I think it's fair to say that they have found some potential areas of consensus, really around both on the one side, really trying to preserve the customary practice of short-term renting on Nantucket, and on the other side, really trying to prevent increased commercialization of homes in residential neighborhoods on Nantucket. And really what they're trying to figure out are what are the right mechanisms to protect residential homes for the use of people and families who love and are connected to Nantucket, at least primarily, and without, harming people who really rely on short-term renting for their livelihoods or for their, to support their homes, the keeping of their family homes and their connections, and also without harming the economy of the island. So while not everybody's, that's all they want, or is fully, as deeply committed to that as everybody else, it is basically the area on which the group is aligning. And so they are talking at this point about probably 2 articles that they would want to be bringing for the special town meeting. One that's a zoning article that would clarify the legal uses of short-term rentals in all the places and in all the ways that they want to protect it. So basically it would say that they are protecting the legal rights except as regulated by a general bylaw. And then there would be a general bylaw that would contain the policy components that would then try to regulate the uses or the performance that they're concerned about, or that they would want to rein in or to limit in order to protect the long-term integrity of residential neighborhoods. And their thinking was, I think, based on the advice they'd gotten from town council and from Judy Barrett, who's a consultant working for the town, to do it so that those two articles are tied together. That is, neither would go into effect without the other. So that's roughly where the group is leaning at the moment. They have yet to come to full agreement, but their timeline is to try to really hone in on a package, preliminary package of policies that they would want to support at their next meeting, which is the in-person meeting next Thursday. And then take two tracks. One would be working with the town council and with Judy Barrett to work on drafting the language for those articles so that they really make sure that they are clear and legal and actionable, enforceable, all of those things. And on the other side, preparing for a public input session that we would hope to have on June 1st, I think tentatively thinking June 1st in the evening. That's a Thursday. And that would be an opportunity to really ask the public to weigh in on this potential approach. And then the group could hone and refine based on what they learn from the public at large in order to make sure that the proposals that they're putting forward are widely acceptable to the people of Nantucket.
Thank you, Stacy. Matt, you have a comment? Question? You're muted, Matt. Matt, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Something's wrong with your audio, Matt. I can see you talking, but we can't hear you. Do you want to come off, come back on? Just log off, log on, see if that fixes it. And then we'll wait for you to get back. Brooke, Dawn, Malcolm, do you have any comments or questions?
I'll just, while Matt's trying to figure it out, I would say I'm pleased with the progress as reported, and that the timeline seems to be holding to have everything ready for the fall town meeting in good time, and the inclusion of public outreach, I think, is great. Thanks, Stacy.
Yeah.
Stacy, I was happy to hear the words align and consensus, even if it's just the beginning. That's great to hear. Hopeful.
Yeah. I mean, the group has really worked hard to listen to each other, to understand where each other are coming from, to work with each other really constructively. So I think that's a really positive sign.
Matt, you're still not coming through. You want to email your question to Erica? Or
You
call in?
Could call in.
You call or?
If I can ask you, just in the moments we're waiting for Matt, if you have, I know you as the select board were thinking of having a statement to just let us know if you'd like to just refer to the short-term rental group's statement to learn about progress. I think the group was really concerned that the public does not really know that much about the progress it's been making, and how constructively it has been working together, and really also how representative they really are, how diverse the points of view and perspectives of the group are. All of those things, there's a perception from some members of the group that in their interactions with the public or with candidates for public office, that there's insufficient awareness about all of that. And so, they were really eager to have that message put out there as powerfully as possible.
Brooke?
There is an item on tonight's agenda to discuss that very thing, a statement from us. It's which is in the packet, so we'll see it's later in the agenda.
Okay, great. And I have I had sent out a draft of the statement that 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. So someone, you should have it, Megan should have it, or I can send it to you. But the revision is not substantial. It's just trying to fit it to one page and all of that. So just if you wanted a sense of what the short-term rentals working group wanted to convey, you would have that. I could just send that to you now if you wanted.
I'll try again. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Matt.
It was connected to my phone somehow. I don't know what happened. I'm all confused. No, I had a quick question. Would the general bylaw be require a town meeting vote to change, or would it be written in such a way that the select board or someone else would be responsible to vote it?
Well, I think they were thinking of a general bylaw that would go to town meeting. Whether there was flexibility built in there for things to change via select board in the future, I don't think they've gotten to that discussion. But there was the thought that both the general bylaw, I think the assumption that both the general bylaw and the zoning bylaw would be passed by town meeting, at least initially. Is that your question, Matt?
Yeah, I think that gets it. I mean, my concern that I like the higher bar. I like a 2/3 vote to make substantive changes, because I'm afraid this will still be a hot topic in future years, and either side will be trying to change it. And once they change it, it will be changed for good. So I favor, we did this with the sewer districts. We made it a 2/3 vote for that reason. I think, however it's written, my recommendation is that make the, sort of make it a 2/3, make it a high bar, unless you want to revisit this every year.
Yeah, that's a really interesting suggestion. I'll bring that back to the group. Thanks, Matt. But at least initially it would require 2/3, even for the general bylaw, because it would be tied to the zoning bylaw, right? So it would say this bylaw will only go into effect if the zoning bylaw is also passed by town meeting.
That makes sense.
Further, and I shudder to think that I've heard some of the discussion is about the select board or someone else setting the neighborhoods and the numbers and the cap and all this kind of stuff. That's just taking it out of the realm of the plus office and dumping it right into Libby's lap. And I think I don't think that'll work either. So I think that's a non-starter, because I think, it'll be very difficult for this board to get anything else done if we're going to be fielding complaints about, how come I didn't get it, and how come my neighborhood has less than his neighborhood. This has to be thought through pretty well.
Yeah.
So that's my main comments. Thank you.
Yeah, noted. Right now, caps, that is something the group has discussed, and some of them really like the idea. I think in general, the group kind of feels like that might be a further down the road consideration. and maybe not necessarily a first pass approach for addressing the issue.
So Stacy, so down the road, the ability of some group to put a cap on it down the road would be instilled in one of these articles, but maybe
I
not.
don't think the
No.
article would say that. I think it's more that the group might have recommendations that come out beyond the article. You know, and I think part of it is that while the data from Process First is really helpful and it's really great to have some data, it seems like we may not have that data complete with NARAB's data included by the time the group has to align on its solutions. But even more than that is the sense that the town's new registration system is going to allow for a level of data collection in the future that is going to give a future group or committee a lot more information about exactly where these things are and what other problems might exist. And that level of information just is not available now. So I think the idea that the group may want to be proposing some modifications or amendments to the registration, whether it's the bylaw or whether it's to the regulation. I'm not quite sure yet, but that would allow for sufficient data collection on topics that are important, right? For example, one piece that they've been looking at is sort of trying to differentiate corporate ownership from natural person ownership. And one way they might do that is by changing the registration requirements to require that those who apply for a permit are showing that they're proving that they're natural persons and not corporations, right? So that's just one example of ways in which they might want to propose some changes to the registration system, both for enforcement of the kinds of articles they might want to support at this time, as well as to help understand challenges in the future.
Thank you, Stacy. Any other comments? The board? Okay, thank you for the update.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, we're on to public comment. Is there any public comment tonight that are on? I'm sorry. Okay. Is there any public comment here tonight on items that are not on the agenda? Erica really wants me to go to Diane first, so let's go there. Just had to get through my little one sentence there.
I'm here. Hi, this is Diane. I don't think I'm doing anything. I'm trying to listen to the meeting tonight. I don't think I had anything specific to say for once. So thank you though for calling on me.
Well, thank you. Good to hear your voice. Any public comment here tonight?
No, go ahead. I might be a little bit longer.
Myself as well. Joan Stockman, 13 Wirral Lane. I was the first person who stood up and spoke at the ZBA meeting, however many years ago that was, for Surfside Crossing. And so the first thing that I actually wanted to say was that I am so aware of the fact that the select board is a volunteer position. And, over the 4.5 years of Surfside Crossing, I've looked at a lot of the packets that you guys are responsible for reading, and I stand in awe, and I'm so grateful for the work that you do. And because two things can be true at the same time, I am also so distraught and disappointed that you voted to drop the Surfside Crossing litigation. I so many people have put so much time into this. The Zoning Board of Appeals, for example, a year and a half working on that. The things that have been unacceptable the entire time remain unacceptable. There are health, safety, and environmental concerns. You know, I wonder if sometimes part of what I'm hearing at some of these meetings is maybe a little bit of, if not an accusation, but kind of the whole NIMBY thing. And it's not that it's just not in my backyard. It's not in my drinking well. It's not in the road that my children and my husband ride their bikes on. It's not in a wellhead recharge district where we have no idea what the impact. It's going to be 75, 80% impervious surface. We have no idea what that is going to lead to. The buildings themselves, 19 buildings that are as large or larger than the veranda house. So how did you vote to drop the lawsuit when all of these concerns still exist? And I feel like you really let down the people who voted for you. I would say too, that what have you learned from watching these same players sconce at Bluff, where they have consistently reneged on their commitments there? They took material from a septic field and poured it down the Sconset Bluff. They wasted a year and a half of the ZBA's time, a year and a half. You see all these gray hairs, a year and a half of my life as well, yanking the ZBA around and then walking away from the negotiations that were meant to be in good faith. And they were good faith on the part of the ZBA and a lot of the other people who were there and working for it. There were lots of other plans that came up. It's not like 156 units was the only plan, but Surfside Crossing walked away from them all. And now, you know, I'm not clear about what the hurry was to drop the litigation. I think that it could have been dropped at any time. It could have been used as some kind of leverage. I heard at the Affordable Housing Trust, somebody suggested that there really was no leverage. Well, now there absolutely is no leverage. And we have nothing now. We have absolutely nothing. I would say, you know, the last couple of things that I would say, and then I have a great big question for you, but that this is kind of straight out of the developer's playbook, right? That joint statement that was created. So that's my question that I'm going to get to in 1 second. The joint statement that said perhaps the Nantucket community is ready to embrace. No, I'd like to say no. And perhaps this is a model for affordable housing in seasonal communities. No, this is right out of the developer's playbook where they hold us hostage. And that's exactly what they did. And they were so smug at the beginning because they knew that you'd fold. They knew that they'd get away with it. And they haven't yet because we still have a court date. So here is my final thing that I have to say, my question. Who put together the joint statement? The individuals. And I would also add to that at the Affordable Housing Trust meeting last night, there was a little bit of an I am Spartacus moment where a couple of people said, well, they've talked to the developer over the last 4 years, over the last 3 years. Not my question. My question is exactly who sat down and wrote out what ended up being the joint statement.
We don't answer questions in public comment, but we'll get back to you on it either through email or.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Good.
Yep. Go ahead.
Hi, Megan Perry. You all have seen this before. I'm going to show it to you again. When have 800 people or more shown up at a public meeting and agreed upon the same thing? When has that ever happened on Nantucket? Right here. That's when it happened. Here we all are standing there, agreeing. This is a picture when Nantucket Tipping Point's attorney asked the audience to please raise your hand for those in opposition of Surfside Crossing. All these hands are up. They're all up. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to quickly read just a few things that I've received. The first is a letter from the select board dated February 14th, 2018. I'll just kind of skip around a little bit so you don't have to, it's 8 pages long. You guys all signed it that were on the board at the time. So The Board of Selectmen voted 5-0 to strongly urge Mass Housing to deny the Pell letter because, and this is in reference to Surfside Crossing, 1, the design presents significant fire safety issues. 2, the property is too culturally important. 3, the property is located in an extremely environmentally sensitive area. 4, the parcel is too small to support the proposed 12 units per acre density, which would overwhelm the property and the neighborhood where there is a special concern over traffic generation. 5, the project would generate 43,000 gallons of sewer flow per day that would require a new 1-mile-long sewer main to the wastewater treatment facility, as existing sewer mains cannot handle the additional flow. 6, the town has insufficient water capacity to serve the project. To the best of my knowledge, none of those have been resolved. None of those issues have been addressed. What changed? A 5-0 vote, and none of your concerns have been addressed. No concessions made by the developer. There's nothing in writing. Good faith. We've all seen what good faith looks like with these guys before. That is my first comment. And another email I received. Below, the board will find a proposed joint statement developed by Tucker Holland, Brian Sullivan, and Andrew Vorse alongside the developers, Jamie Feely and Josh Posner, which we are seeking the board to adopt. Understanding the following, we are recommending the board withdraw from its current appeal of the hack decision on the comprehensive permit for Surfside Crossing and support the joint statement, allowing the conversation to turn from fighting to collaboration and focus on how this development can serve year-rounders to a great degree. We would ask the board to consider. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comments in here regarding that. The developers have been publicly stating that they think the best version of this project is if 75% of it is serving year-round communities, year-round restrictions. Then it goes on and says, we understand that other entities are eager to play a part in a project serving year-rounders. Next one, year-round ownership options are few and far between. We understand that Town Council has maintained all along that ultimately we are likely to lose this lawsuit in terms of any material effect on the density of the project. Even if we won the appeal to have the case remanded to the ZBA on valid technical arguments, ultimately the state would find that the regional need for housing outweighs local concerns. Continues on, the need for year-round housing ownership opportunity is great. So there's a lot about year-round housing in here. Yesterday at the Affordable Housing Trust meeting, I asked them to define year-round. And seeing how Tucker Holland and Brian Sullivan were on that meeting, neither one could define year-round for me. But that's what this joint statement was based on, a term that no one can define. Continues on, it says, we understand that several years ago, the select board at the time did not want to work with the developers for various reasons held by the board at the time. The board composition has changed, and so have the circumstances around year-round housing on Nantucket, a term we still can't define. But that sounds an awful lot like other emails I've seen from the same party, shall we say, where they say, I think it was something along the lines of promises were made about a more sympathetic conservation commission and changing things up. And so that just kind of seemed weird to me that similar language was used. Let's see. Continue on. One of the other things, there are no guarantees as to the final determination of the mix at Surfside Crossing if the lawsuit is dropped. Yet there appears to be an opportunity to get a wider range of community organizations in the room and work collaboratively with the developer to achieve this. Even if that collaboration effort were to completely fail, we think it is important to consider at this time, what is the purpose does this lawsuit serve? To be clear, this isn't going to be free. The developers are clear in making their return on the permitted under the 40B. With the lawsuit behind us, the town may be able to fulfill multiple obligations, including securing units for its own use. Even more significantly, providing subsidy for individual year-rounders who elect to live at Surfside Crossing, who may be very willing to take down payment assistance in exchange for deed restrictions, which would ensure the units stay in year-round families in perpetuity. This is a program which could be developed and administered through the Affordable Housing Trust, and the seeds of which are already underway. Respectfully, Tucker Holland, Housing Director. That was sent on April 7th. So a couple of questions with that. The 3 people that are cited in here for this negotiation, they have these pesky little things. Contracts. They are signed. They're in writing. Here's Tucker's. It's 5 pages. Andrew Vorse, signed in writing, 10 pages. Leslie Snell, 11 pages. Libby Gibson, 12 pages. Why is it that there are signed contracts in writing for town employees, but we didn't need to do that for Surfside Crossing? We didn't need to have anything signed. We didn't need anything in writing. Just, that's okay. It's acceptable for the whole community to not have a contract. So then also yesterday at the Affordable Housing Trust meeting, I asked if the board voted to have the chair and the housing director be the ones making this negotiation. And they said they voted unanimously in executive session. So I went back and looked at when executive session would probably be for that. One person was not at that executive session meeting. So the date that that would be available would be April 7th, same date as one of these letters I just read. But that also allows enough time to post for the ZBA to have an executive session meeting or joint meeting with you or be brought in. But the ZBA, who is the regulatory body and board for this development, was not brought in. They learned about it from, I believe, the Current and the Inky. There was plenty of time to bring them in. The ZBA's mission is to promote the health, safety, convenience, morals, and general welfare of Nantucket inhabitants, to lessen the danger from fire and congestion, and to improve the town. Why were they brought in? Again, I'm confused about the whole year round not being able to define that. I'm curious what seeds are already underway for programs through the Affordable Housing Trust, because I think they've received $75 million with not a whole lot of game plan. We don't really see much. So I'm a little nervous that this board is asking for $6.5 million annually at town meeting. Where's that going to go to? And if you think it should be going to buying down units at Surfside Crossing or having more taxpayer funds go towards that, I don't think that's a great idea. Before I came to this board, in the past, I've talked a little bit about how could 3 departments miss the conservation management permit. I say miss because I think that's the word that was used. I think I might understand why now. 3 departments missed it. I also called into 7 different select board meetings in a row and asked, how did that happen? And what are we going to do about it? What repercussions are there going to be about it? 7. I didn't really get any answers. Nothing was to be done about it. And I think I understand why there was no action taken now. So that's a couple of my questions. And then I think what was it? One of the media outlets most recently said that there's 45 seats available on boards, commissions, whatnot for the town. I'm sure there are when there's vacancies like that, because people don't want to serve if they keep getting undercut by the select board and usurped by the select board, just like what happened to the ZBA and the Concom. Like, that's why would you want to come serve on that when the select board's just going to say, cool, you did all this work, but we're going to go over here and do something else. So those are kind of my questions and concerns. I know you guys don't answer any questions at public comment. Some of these aren't really questions, more statements, but I'd love to hear back from anybody. On a side note, I've asked, and I make sure to when I send emails, I make sure that I put it in the 2 category, not the CC category. I've asked for things to be sent on to the ZBA, or I've asked for questions to be answered and they don't get answered by members in the Plus department. I've copied the director, the deputy director, town administrator. What's the best way to get questions answered and to get information to the ZBA? Because I've asked for some stuff to be sent along to the appropriate boards, and the response I got is, I'm not making any assumptions about the appropriate departments and boards to which your email may be of interest, and will leave that to you to determine and distribute, which is hard to do when that staff member is the only contact for that board. I'm not sure how else I'm supposed to get information to them. So thank you guys very much for your time, and I look forward to your replies.
Thank you, Megan. Any other comments? So normally comments are 3 minutes, but I know because Surfside Crossing is a hot topic and it's on chair, and I voted to drop the lawsuit, I gave everybody a little more time, but if we could try to keep it
Thank you.
close to
I'll be
3.
short.
Go ahead.
Hi, Diane Cabral. I was just wanting to express my disappointment at the way that you have dropped this lawsuit. I was embarrassed for the zoning board and the amount of hard work they put in. And at that meeting, to see them sitting there, having not received notice of this, was disgraceful. I want to know, as I understand housing. I, at the moment, have an adult child living at my house, and I have a family of 4 who lost their housing, who have moved into my upstairs. I understand. However, I do not understand how you can drop a lawsuit when the fire chief was on record commenting that this was unsafe, that there is not a proper turning radius, that they don't have the equipment to get in there, that they cannot reach some of the buildings. I don't get it. And I want to know how you're going to make sure that these safety issues are considered and taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Erica, you keep an eye on online. I can't see it.
Hi, my name is Hadley Dutra, and I'm a parent of 3 children on Nantucket. One of my children is a freshman at Nantucket High School. Since the beginning of the school year, some of us parents have been following these issues of vandalism and vaping in the school bathrooms, as reported in the news outlets. And I'm here tonight to sort of discuss what we have learned and our new approach in terms of how we're going to hopefully successfully combat this issue in the schools. The Nantucket Public School policy on smoking and tobacco and vaping clearly states that it is not allowed anywhere on the Nantucket Public School campus. I have a copy of that policy here in my hand for anyone who cares to read it. This important policy that affects the health, safety, and well-being of our students, particularly those in the middle and high school, cannot currently be enforced. The school cannot truly call itself a vape, nicotine, and THC-free campus because currently no one really knows what is going on in the bathrooms. And we certainly have evidence that what is going on is not good. Students figured out a long time ago that they can vape in the school bathrooms and in other areas on the school campus where cameras are not allowed. This isn't new. Some of us recently watched a documentary created in 2019 about kids vaping at Nantucket High School. It was sad to watch, and even more so given the fact that we are experiencing the same problem in 2023. So I'm here tonight to share that there is a solution to this problem. Technology has evolved and caught up to the problem of vaping. Vape detectors are installed in thousands of public schools across the country. And in speaking with principals at various schools, including Barnstable High School, where they're installed in every bathroom, locker room, and field house, we have learned that vape detectors have been an effective tool in combating vape on campus. Last night at school committee, a work group was created with a specific goal of forming a solution and implementation plan to combat vaping in the middle and high schools. Many ideas have circulated in reference to how to combat this issue, including bathroom monitors and anonymous student reporting. Bathroom monitors would not be inside the bathroom, and it would require a voluntary effort to have people sit outside bathrooms day in and day out. This seems unsustainable and ineffective. Student reporting, anonymously or otherwise, we feel is a good idea, but still, the incidence of vaping unchecked would continue. Tonight, we're hoping that the select board will hear from us parents about this alarming issue plaguing our schools and consider that funds may be requested in the coming months to install a vape detection system on Nantucket, such as the one currently installed in Barnstable. By suggesting that the school needs vape detectors, we are not suggesting that the administration is not doing a good job of confiscating vape pens and holding kids accountable who are vaping on campus, because they are. What we are saying is that without closing the loop on these lingering issues in the school bathrooms, we are not going to solve the problem of vaping in the schools. The vape that kids are using now is not the cigarette that some of us grew up with. A Juul and a vape is the equivalent of a pack of cigarettes. And kids are vaping THC in the bathroom. And we know that now based on news stories and evidence around the island that you can vape fentanyl. So many concerned parents, NPS staff members and administrators and members of school committee want to see more measures taken to ensure that Nantucket Public Schools have safe and healthy facilities for our students. We look forward to presenting a budget for a vape detection system and implementation plan in the coming weeks. I welcome your comments and questions. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Brent Tartamella, and I am a year-round community member, high school parent, and member of the high school school council. A few of us have chatted with you individually, and this is the first time, maybe ever, that the issue of drugs and alcohol in the high school have been brought to the select board. My advocacy is spurred on by the fact that student vaping in middle and high school is negatively impacting the learning environment. Until recently, there has not been a transparent acknowledgement from the high school and district perspective of the severity of this crisis. And furthermore, the lack of action to minimize, deter, and educate has been inadequate. I recently was forwarded a student film produced, as you just heard, in 2019 about the vaping problem then in our high school. This issue has existed since the previous administration, and we are still no further in addressing education and prevention until the last 90 days. While I'm appreciative of the progress, the severity of the problem calls for an immediate, multi-pronged, action-oriented solution. I'm here for two reasons. One is because this is a community problem that is eroding the strength and positive culture of our island. Following my letter to the Nantucket Current, I sent a letter to community leaders from the school, police, Chamber of Commerce, Island Counseling Services, because it will take all of us to dispel the underage drinking and drugging that has been normalized in our resort community. I plead for the select board to see how they can positively influence and begin to change the trajectory of all things in your purview as it relates to creating a positive, enriching community that strives for excellence within our children. We can do this by encouraging the police department to keep a minimum of 2 school resource officers. We're currently down to 1 and in jeopardy of losing that person. Keeping those school resource officers in the school system and prioritizing vigilance around drugs coming and going from the island, and holding the school committee and administration accountable for creative solutions to the almost 24 unfilled positions. Too often we get caught up in process and not progress. Your tasks are many and difficult, and I don't even know how you prioritize all the issues. And yet here I am asking you to catapult another problem to the top of the list. I get it, but our kids are the future of the island, and their safety and well-being need to be prioritized. The second reason I'm here is to support the implementation of vape detectors district-wide. I support my colleague's statement that we need to close the loop and install what has been proven successful in other school districts. At last night's school committee meeting, they set a date for a vape detector work group meeting. We have a 45-day window for the work group to research, create a solution, implement a plan that begins the day school is out. The aggressive timeline will allow us to start school in September with vape detectors. I ask that this board hold the school work group and district accountable for the completion of this plan. It will take more than vape detectors to solve the problem. However, without them, we cannot support the school to enforce the policies that are already in place. Prevention and education are critical. If not in place for September 23, we're waiting till after summer 24, while yet another senior class graduates and another freshman class gets exposed to what has become a very normalized in-school daily activity of vaping. While addressing all of this, let's not forget that fentanyl is here and is responsible for overdose deaths. Please help our school district and our community create a positive place for kids. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Hadley. You go online. We have Emily Molden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Emily Molden here, speaking on behalf of the Nantucket Land Council. I'm just going to take a moment to go back to some of the previous comments regarding the Surfside Crossing appeal. I am here to express our extreme frustration and disappointment in the Select Board's recent vote to dismiss the Surfside Crossing litigation. We certainly also acknowledge the extreme need for housing on the island as an issue. However, as a co-appellant with the Zoning Board of Appeals and other residents, we're also very familiar with the long list of additional community concerns and issues with the proposed development. Issues that have been recognized over the last 5 years by this board as well as by the Zoning Board of Appeals, who were appointed by you to be the expert in these matters. They're also the body that is ultimately going to be responsible for the enforcement of the permit for this development and for dealing with these issues that have not been resolved. This long list of issues have not been addressed, and I wanted to speak to echo the fact that the select board owes the community an explanation and an answer on why the Zoning Board of Appeals was undermined. They voted just last fall to appeal this decision, and they've been completely usurped in this process. I also think it's important to understand why town council was not involved in the negotiations, as was revealed at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting last week. And finally, why 3 members of the board voted to move forward with this with absolutely no guarantee of any benefit to the town or the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Any other comments tonight? It's not on the agenda. I gave you 12 minutes, but if you want to do something quick.
Very much appreciate it. Real quick. Has anybody done a return on investment analysis of this project? Thank you.
No, it's tiny. It's
Yeah,
tiny,
go ahead.
tiny. I just want to say that you can get Narcan by prescription, but it's free to you. And it just is so painful for me to hear parents of younger, high school students talking about fentanyl and stuff. I have 2 boxes of Narcan at my house, and I'm going to get some from a car. And I probably will have one in my bag because it is everywhere and it's free. Your health insurance will pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I know I'm not supposed to comment, but there are many organizations, ASAP, Fairwinds, that gives out free Narcan, fentanyl strips. We're just trying to find people to give it to. Okay, we're going to go on to new business. There's one item of new business. This is a kind of technical matter with the short-term rental work group. Mary Lepre can't attend. I believe it's the next meeting. Kind of help, and would like to us to appoint, or they can appoint somebody in her place for that one meeting. It's kind of just part of the protocol and procedure. So, Erica, do we need to vote for this? Just allow them to place somebody, or do we actually put in Roberto Santa Maria?
I'm not sure. I mean, I would assume you'd have to vote something.
Right. Well,
I'll make a motion
sure.
That Roberto can fill in.
Can fill in. Okay. There's a second.
Second.
Second. All those in favor by roll call. Don,
Aye.
you say aye?
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That just came to our attention, I think today or yesterday. Oh, aye. Thank you, Erica. The motion to approve the minutes, payroll warrants, and treasury warrants.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call. Don,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Jason, aye. Those pass. Pending contracts. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I think there was one clarification on just so you all know, the last 2 items. I believe those numbers the amounts are flipped. So the bottom one for South Shore Road should be 260,000, and the Sconza should be 60. So if we do pass all this, we'll just make that note. Any questions or comments?
Move approval with that technical change.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor, roll call. Don,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Our next report is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. This is the strategic plan. I think we have Kamal and Bree here today.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Kamal.
Perfect. Before I hand it over to Bree, I'm just going to do a quick introduction. So let me just actually stick to my notes. Before we welcome Dr. Reebrecher, I would like to take this opportunity to review some DEI highlights. It's simply to recap our journey to this presentation. The town issued a request for proposals to create a DEI strategic plan in April of 2021. The select board unanimously approved a contract with Tangible Development in August of 2021 to develop our DEI strategic plan. Tangible Development has guided the town in leadership readiness, capacity building, and multiple modes of data collection, which were all contributed to our first DEI assessment report, which we received in August of 2022. Dr. Becker gave a presentation of the report findings to the select board in September of 2022 as well. I believe that's a September 18th meeting, if memory serves correctly. The contract with Tangible Development included trainings for town employees, which were offered from January to April of this year. And the training topics included inclusive leadership, implicit bias, engaged allyship, as well as exploring identity and DEI. There was also an internal goal to have 100% cabinet participation in at least one DEI training. I am pleased to share that that goal was achieved. What else? We received our DEI strategic plan just this month, which Dr. Becker will share with you shortly. Before I hand it over to Dr. Becker, I would like to specifically thank her and her entire staff at Tangible Development. I would like to thank those that were a part of the Nantucket project leads, Roberto, Florencia, Amanda, and Janet, for their prolonged efforts guiding the strategic plan development. I'd also like to thank town leadership, the deputy directors, as well as the DEI committee. These specific groups continuously provided feedback. I'd also like to thank town staff for their participation in the surveys, trainings, and for their continuous follow-ups and inquiries. I'm going to specifically shout out Shanta, the Culture and Tourism Director, as well as Karen, the Chief Technology Officer, for their steadfast participation throughout all stages of the plan development from the get-go until now. Both of those women have been literally hands-on the entire way through, so I thank them for that. And lastly, I think it is important to note that the DEI strategic plan, which we're about to present to you, is a part of the town's overall plan. And this fits into the overall strategic development that's efforts that are ongoing as well. I know I just said that all in like one breath, I apologize. But with all that said, next is Dr. Bree Becker. Welcome back, Bree.
Thank you, Kamal. So, hi everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm assuming everyone can hear me because you don't look like blank faced. Okay, great. So to share the strategic plan with you all. So all right, so you should be looking at my slide deck now. So we've been doing lots of things, as you just heard from Kamal, and this is in some ways the sort of middle step of the work we've been doing, but it's also the step that's going to sort of bring you all into the next stage of your work. So, been doing some DEI strategic planning, as Kamal noted, right? This sort of is a natural intersection and sort of overlay with your overall strategic planning. We've crafted a DEI commitment statement and some DEI goals that go with this. So it wasn't just like me and Kamal or even that group of folks. It's a slightly larger group of folks, about a dozen town and county employees, mostly but not exclusively folks in leadership roles, spent 6 hours envisioning workshops, as well as some additional time drafting. You heard some shout outs for folks who put in some extra hours there. It was not the only folks. Engaged in a series of exercises to explore different perspectives, in terms of employees of the town and county, and also the findings that came out of that assessment report, envisioning what that future of DEI might look like. We did this in several iterations, producing drafts from this group. Feedback was solicited, both live via workshop and in writing from the cabinet, from the deputy directors, and from the DEI committee. So both the group that was the project leads and the group that was doing this primary drafting, but also other major stakeholders having some say in this, and produced a number of drafts. I pulled them together and did some pieces, but you'll see the language mostly isn't mine. The structure comes a little bit more from this side of things. So first, to sort of set a tone in some ways, right? A DEI commitment statement. What does DEI mean? What is this? Sometimes this turns into a mission and a vision, but you all really, what was crafted really is a commitment statement. And it's actually quite lovely. This is the Nantucket DEI commitment statement. Open shores, open doors. The town and county of Nantucket works to promote, foster, and sustain equal access in an equitable and inclusive work environment where diversity is celebrated and valued in the workplace and the community. We are committed to engaging with the history and the story of all who live, work, and play on our beautiful shores. Right, so this isn't meant to like tell you everything that's going to happen, but just serve as a guiding principle, as a commitment to where the town and county is at. And then the bulk of this, the strategic goals. There are 4 major focus areas: communications, both internal and external, employee training and professional development, celebration and appreciation, and harnessing talent, local and diverse talent. So this is meant to be roughly a 3-year plan. Notice the 23 to 26 dates on that front slide. But this is also meant to be a living document. As pieces of goals are achieved or goals are achieved, new goals will appear. And so while you might replan on a 3-year cycle, you also might replan on a staggered cycle to sort of start to cue things up. The commitment statement may be evergreen, or at least, long-term green. It doesn't necessarily need to be revisited in the same way, but the goals are meant to be regularly updated and reviewed. And you'll note, as you sort of heard in that commitment statement and in the goals, that like the assessment, this overwhelmingly is focused on the town and county as a workplace, not necessarily not as broadly on the town and county as a community. So thinking about that, that's where the bulk of the assessment was. That's where the bulk of this focus is. Obviously, there's other kinds of DEI work that are likely also part of the future for the town and county of Nantucket. So thinking about first, communications. So each of the goals is set up in the structure. Some of them have multiple goals. Some of them have just one goal for the focus area, where there's a goal, where there's tasks and strategies, the actions that will go with it. Responsible parties, who's a player in this, and knowing that this is probably not exhaustive, and a timeline in places where there is already a sort of sketched out timeline. Some things have more of a timeline than others. So looking to close the communication gap for employees organizationally across departments, looking to explore strategies for reaching employees, particularly folks without work email, and implementing those strategies. You can see lots of different players in this, and looking to sort of stretch this out, looking to start researching strategies this year, implementing them next, and then assessing how that's going as you round out that 3-year cycle. Continuing to look at communications, looking to make more visible the town and county's diversity, with the particular goal of showing that people of different backgrounds work for and are encouraged to work for Nantucket. So practical pieces of this, getting images of a diverse workforce, including video, considering hiring a photographer and or a videographer, finding channels for this, collecting employee stories and testimonials, and continuing the meet and eat that already exists. Right? Some of these are continuations of existing programs. Here, right, this lives very heavily with the communications division with support from DEI. And looking to have a first round of this year, but having us also be something ongoing. And then keeping employees and community members up to date on Nantucket's DEI work, looking to use existing channels and platforms, and looking to explore new methods and modes if they're needed to reach the intended audiences. Then looking at training and professional development. The goal is to offer regular DEI training and professional development, both mandatory and optional, knowing that we need folks to have this regularly, and there's folks who are going to want to deep dive for all employees, particularly for managers, supervisors, and leadership. So needing to review where the knowledge gaps are and where education requests are. Some of that comes out in the end. The assessment report provides quite a bit of that. Offering workshops that allow folks to expand their skills and their knowledge, to meet folks where they are in terms of their interest and their knowledge. Adding DEI training as part of employee onboarding. Exploring what it would look like to add that as a required annual or some kind of other cycle training for some or for all employees. Exploring ways to bring folks in professional classes in exchange for an amount of time working for the town and county. So pipeline programs, thinking about mentor programs for new employees. And thinking about providing professional development and training opportunities at times and in formats that accommodate work schedules, childcare, second jobs, so that those opportunities are open to individuals across the employee spectrum. It's often much easier for folks who are in management roles, who sit at a desk, to be in these kind of things, and thinking about how we make this open to everybody, right? Lots of players in this, because this is going to be led out of the DEI office at HR likely, but we're going to need buy-in from all of the departments to get everybody here. So, looking at the cabinet and really at everyone. And thinking about this again, right? Something that's going to sort of grow gradually over time. We've also offered, Kamal noted, some workshops already through tangible development this winter and spring. So some of this already, right? So you can see other places where there's things already in motion. Thinking about the third goal, celebration and appreciation. So 2 goals in this focus area. The first is to acknowledge individuals for their accomplishments, identify what experiences and contributions to recognize, and creating a system of visible recognition for achievement and individual contributions that might look at a number of ways. Different folks in play here, apparently HR twice. And looking to sort of create this around the arc of the middle of this time frame. And then acknowledging individuals and communities for their uniqueness and value. We need to celebrate sort of diversity in the broad sense here. Looking at cultural celebrations of a range of Nantucket communities with a focus on overlooked communities on the island. Again, something where the DI director and the DI office will be likely taking lead, but also in partnerships with departments, with community partners. Looking to craft an initial calendar in these first 6 months, and then something that will be ongoing indefinitely. And then the fourth focus area, harness local and diverse talent. Looking to proactively work to promote the idea that working for the town and county is for many different people, and expand the outreach of job openings to diverse residents and populations. So advertising jobs in ways that will reach a broader audience. The town government needs you, your talents campaign, to make local and diverse candidates feel comfortable and welcome applying for town jobs. And engaging with the Calling All Whalers initiative, right? So in the sense where we're looking to engage with ongoing things, thinking here again about ways to create pipelines and ways to show folks coming from that Nantucket High School into the town and county employment pipeline. Again, right, multiple players here, because this has a comms aspect, an HR aspect, a DEI aspect. Likely some folks who, right, not actually accounted for here are the folks on the high school side of this that will probably be players. So knowing that we're likely there are responsible parties that we haven't even identified, and as the work unfolds, there'll be additional folks at play. The next goal is to provide opportunities for tangible resume building, professional development. And encourage and invite diverse employees to seek promotions. So creating opportunities for those constructive conversations about how folks want to develop in terms of leadership and management. Inviting employees with untapped potential to participate in paid opportunities, professional growth, and encourage them to apply for openings that fit with that. Developing partnerships and commitments with a local institution to offer opportunities only available to town employees. Things that folks need, practical skills, professional skills. And encouraging employees and considering how to incentivize folks who have DEI options as part of their professional recertification programs for their professional roles to engage in those options, especially if it's being funded by the town and county. So making that a priority in the way folks do professional development. And cultivating an environment where belonging and inclusion are bedrocks for collaboration and innovation. So highlighting workplace expectations upon hire, thinking about onboarding, using training that creates awareness for employees' responsibilities to ensure that all feel welcome. So seeing this as something that is for everyone. And also role and level specific onboarding training to address personal implicit bias, to begin self and team, if relevant, for management reflection as part of microaggression mitigation. Having continuing education for managers, supervisors, and leadership to support them in creating an inclusive culture and a culture of accountability. That's not necessarily something we just like all come in knowing how to do. And creating and promoting opportunities for feedback and reflection within departments and throughout town government, allowing there to be a routine process for employees to have their ideas and their voices heard and valued. Again, a number of players in this and probably players beyond this, what's listed here, but thinking about these 4 areas as the major places for strategic DEI work over the next few years. Not the only things, certainly not an exhaustive list of things that could be happening, but we really encourage, we Tangible Development really encourage the clients we work with to set a set of goals that are achievable, that is a road to success. That folks sometimes want to have 45 goals, and some of them are things like save the world. And that's as a sentiment really lovely, but as practical application for strategic goals and planning, just ends up with folks feeling sort of lost and sometimes disappointed. So thinking about what do we need from the select board and from other folks in leadership. Looking for folks to support the DEI goals and DEI work. That's going to look different for different folks in different roles. If you want to talk more about what that might look like for you, Kamal is your guy. We need a commitment to DEI work and to the spirit of the DEI commitment statement. And sort of the fundamental values expressed in that. Again, right, this is interlinked with support, but we've seen folks support things that they have trouble committing to and the reverse. So thinking about both of those. Looking and thinking this is particularly as we look towards the select board and to leadership, providing the resources to achieve those goals. So it includes, but it's certainly not limited to the human bandwidth, right? People to actively engage in this work alongside Kamal. You are fortunate to have somebody to professionally lead this work, but it's not work that can actually be done solo on sort of scale, not for the town and county as a whole, not as a workplace, not as a community. That needs other folks to be engaged with this, and it means that they need to have the bandwidth to be able to do that. And it needs money. As you think about both human bandwidth and creating resources for programming, for exploring new ways of doing things, this needs practical support as well. And then to engage with the DEI goals as a living document, right? Recognizing that DEI work has to respond to a really rapidly changing environment. If you thought about the DEI goals you might have set 3 years ago, they'd be radically different from today. And if you think about 6 years ago, we're almost discussing like a different era. So knowing that this might shift in ways that other kinds of strategic planning doesn't necessarily, and being willing to both be open to that, but also to be a part of that. If you see places where there are new goals, new places to see. And so making this a living document as part of your work too. So I think I've taken plenty of time. So if we have time, I'm happy to take questions or Kamal to take questions because I'm not sure which one of us will have the answer, but I also know you're running long tonight. So I'm going to stop making you look at the Q&A slide and see what's happening next.
Thank you, Bree. Any questions, comments? I had one. I like that the last slide of what can the select board do? Because really, when you first said that, I thought you must have policy boards all the time that just, rubber stamp it. Oh yeah, we're for this, but what can you really do? Right. And you said financially, to support it. But then I was wondering, I was going to ask Libby and just the board, do we, Kamal, are you involved in our strategic plan process for you to look through all of our strategic planning with the DEI lens? Have you been involved? And if not, can you be?
I have been involved, yes.
Okay.
I am involved, sorry, in multiple ways.
Okay. I thought you were, but I was trying to think really what really can the select board do versus just saying like, yes, we support this. Anything else? Brooke? Brooke?
Yeah. I really appreciate the commitment statement. I think it's, and I imagine the rooms where it evolved and the people who were at the table writing jointly to come up with something really as eloquent as that reflects to me how this work is important to us as a town government, but also as a community at large. And that to me speaks to the bigger picture long-term that I, both as an elected member of the select board and as just a resident of Nantucket, how I need to engage with this on an ongoing basis, and that I have the ability to commit to it and live it out in my day-to-day existence. And I just think that the commitment statement really is a beautiful reflection of an important and aspirational goal for our entire community. So I want to thank everyone who have put both professionally and just the entire team of people who put their hours and hours of time into this work, and Kamal for your leadership. I think we're well on our way, and we have a foundation built, and there's still a long way to go. And I'm really hopeful for our future, and that I'm proud of our community that we committed to this, and to the board before me that started this. So.
Thank you, Brooke. I want to add one more thing. I know when we first started, we put a lot of HR practices in place, with the DEI lens and kind of blind evaluations of hiring different things. And it really stuck with me it's surprising that we didn't already have that, but it was really important that we installed it. And it really stuck with me because I tried to apply it in my personal jobs and organizations when doing hiring. So it's not just affecting the town, it's educating, it's going further than just within the town. Just wanted to throw that out there. Anything else? Thank you, Bree. Thank you, Kamal. We appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on the Citizen Department Committee request with Barnstable County Retirement Association. This is a request to consider additional 2% cost of living adjustment for retirees for fiscal year 2023. In the agenda, it says 2024. That was a typo. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we thought that I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the pension system. We thought it'd be a good time, since we're before you, to ask for you to approve and adopt the Chapter 269 of the Acts of 22. But before we get to that request, we thought it'd be really helpful to probably just give everybody a very brief overview of Barnstable County, because we do get a lot of questions and we certainly get some from the board. So we thought this would be a really good time to do that. So as you're aware, we're a member of the Barnstable County. Sorry, Erica, next slide. First slide, please. Thank you. We're members of the Barnstable County Retirement Association.
Brian,
yes.
Brian, excuse me. What I'm seeing on the screen share is not what you're seeing up there.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Brooke.
Yeah. There we go. That.
Yep. Is that good, Brooke, on your end?
Yes, thank you, Erica.
Okay, thank you. So as everyone's aware, we are members of the Barnstable County Retirement Association. It does have a 5-member board and administrative staff. The board consists of the county treasurer, a second member appointed by the county commissioners, 2 members that are elected by the members of the system and are active or retirees within the system. And the 5th member is elected by the County Retirement Advisory Board Advisory Council and is a treasurer in one of the units within the system. Every 2 years, there is an actuarial valuation done. The last valuation was done effective or with a planned assets of January 1st, 2022. The Retirement Association manages almost $1.7 billion invested in the Pension Reserve Investment Trust. Currently, we have a funding ratio within Barnstable County of just under 66% with a schedule, as we've discussed previously with the board, that has us being fully funded by June 30th of 2037. Although the law does allow us to extend that to no later than 2040. There's just under 4,800 active members in the system. There's just under 3,500 retirees and 970 inactive members within the system. There are 50 units that comprise the Barnstable County Retirement Association. We, being the town of Nantucket, is the 2nd largest unit in that association, and we represent just under 11% of that total. The county is 0.39%, so they're a relatively small percentage of the total. So the reason that we're here tonight is because in 2022, the governor signed Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022, which did allow for an additional 2% COLA to go to a maximum of 5% for fiscal 23 only. Currently, the Retirement Association or retirement system is allowed to grant a COLA of up to 3% every year on the first $18,000 of a retiree's pension. This one-time act would increase the amount allowable to by an additional $360 per retiree. In order to implement this, the retirement board, which has already voted to accept this, 2/3 of the cities and towns and other units in the retirement system must also vote to do that, accept it. When we just talked to Barnstable County earlier in the week, they said already four member units have voted to do this, and more people are starting to look at it and take it. I believe they have a requirement that has to be done by May in order to be able to make this retroactively. In the presentation, we put the cost for both the town and the county in this. The first 2 years of the funding schedule will add an additional $113,575 to the town for fiscal 25. And $120,161 in fiscal 26 for the town, and just around $4,225 for the county, and $4,526. Now, the reason that we're starting in fiscal 25 is because by the time this was done and the actuarial assumptions were done for this, it was too late to implement any of those costs into the fiscal 24 assessment, because those had already been delivered to all communities and were already being budgeted. So they've pushed it out. The majority of the retirees within the town and the county receive a pension that is greater than $18,000 per year, so they will receive the maximum $360 increase. That will be a one-time increase to the annual COLA, but that $360 payment will carry on in their pension forever. So one thing I do want to note is we put the first 2 years in here because we're reasonably confident in what they are. The rest of them are just actuarial assumptions. This will carry our increased contribution in the town and the county, should the board adopt this and 2/3 of the communities do accept it, will carry on through the entirety of the funding schedule. The estimated cost for the town is about $1.1 million over that 10 years. And it's about, is it 50,000 for the county? I think it is over the 10 years, roughly about 50,000 for the county over those same 10 years. Next slide, please. So in Massachusetts, we're what's known as a Section 218 agreement, which, because we have a pension plan, municipal employees we do not pay into Social Security. We pay strictly into the pension plan. There is an offset provision for if you do have the ability to claim Social Security. It is a contributory defined benefit plan, which has different ages for retirement and different amounts of benefit based on how long you work. The retirement system is governed by Chapter 32. There are 104 retirement systems across the state. As I've noted, we're a member of Barnstable County, and they are overseen by what's known as PERAC, or the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission. Next slide. Employees within the town now contribute either 7, 8, or 9% of regular compensation, which is defined as base wages, paid time off, longevity, shift differentials, education and certification pay. Anything that is regular and recurring and predictable is what's defined as regular compensation. And for those of us hired after January 1st of 1979, we do contribute an additional 2% on all compensation over $30,000, or what amounts to $1,153.85 biweekly. One important note, because we do get this question internally a lot, the regular compensation does not include overtime, one-time payments, does not include any of the pandemic pay or any payment for unused paid time off or pay in lieu of a benefit. Next slide. So this is another question that we do get quite frequently, is the retirement allowance is based on your group, your age, your years of service, and your hire date. There are 4 particular employee groups within the pension system. The town only has employees in group 1, which is basically all regular and non-emergency personnel employees. And then group 4, which is your public safety employees, which is police and fire. If you were hired before April 2nd of 2012, your pension calculation would be on your average of your 3 highest years. In order to be able to retire, you must be 55 years old and 10 years of service, or you can retire at any age, provided you have 20 years of service. For public safety, who were hired before April 2nd of 2012, you must be 55 years with no minimum service requirement, or you can retire at any age, provided you have 20 years of service. In order to, the Commonwealth did make changes in 2012 to the pension law, which essentially the biggest change was the amount of regular compensation, the average that you must do. It extended it to the 5 highest years of regular compensation, and did make some minor changes to retirement eligibility. For group 1, you now have to be 60 years old with 10 years of service. And then for public safety in group 4, you have to be a minimum of 55 with no minimum service requirement. I think next slide, please. So both myself and our treasurer, Melinda Ernst Fournier, who does a great job working with the pension system, are here to answer any questions. We are recommending that we do accept the additional, chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022 to allow for that additional 2% for the retirees.
Thank you, Brian and Mindy, for the presentation. Any questions or comments from the board? Sure.
Not so much to do with the numbers, but we represent a very small percentage of the overall group. You said 0.4% or something.
The county does. The county itself, the town of Nantucket is 10.52%. So the town itself as a unit and an entity is the second largest participant in that, but the county is its own separate entity within the retirement system. So that's their 0.4.
That 5-member board, do we have input into that?
Do we have input into the? Just the elected members there. We can go to the meetings and do have discussions regularly with them.
Do you feel you're adequately represented?
I do feel we're adequate.
By that board?
I do, yes.
Is doing your service appropriately?
Yes.
Thank you, Malcolm. Matt, do you have your hand up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Brooke or Dawn, anything? Okay, is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call? Dawn?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
And Jason, aye. That passes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open a public hearing to consider an application for alteration of premises of seasonal all alcohol beverage hotel license for Nantucket Island Management, the White Elephant Hotel residence. Hi.
Hi, this should be relatively simple. This is an alteration in relation to the alteration application we did back in March for the White Elephant Village residences, wherein they removed the ballroom from their premises effective June the 20th of this year until July the 29th to allow for the temporary restaurant of Grill 23 to be in that space. The ABCC has approved that alteration recently, and we're asking for this to be altered back to add that ballroom space back to the White Elephant Village residences license as of July the 29th.
Yep, Erica.
Matt just texted me saying that he's recusing.
Okay. So Matt is recusing.
Yeah, I'm
sorry,
recused.
Okay, this was continued from April 12th. I should have opened it.
Correct. Yes, thank you. Oh, it was
Had to be re-advertised.
yeah,
Okay.
to allow for proper butter notification.
Okay, so I did do it correctly.
Yes, thank you.
Can I make a motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah, well, I just want to check, anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this public hearing? Is there anyone online? Okay. Good.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Dawn,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Matt,
Recused.
oh, that's right, Jason, I. So it is closed.
A motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Dawn,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Jason, I. That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Town managers reports.
Okay, first off, we've got an update on the Baxter Road alternative access options and hopefully a potential selection of an option. Just a tiny bit of background on this. We've done some additional work on this project since the last update to the board in January. And just as a bit of an aside, because we've gotten some questions about this, the two joint workshop meetings that were held in the last month or so with the Select Board and the Conservation Commission regarding the erosion control project at Baxter Road. The follow-up from those meetings is continuing at the staff level, and we expect to have a report to the board with some recommendations within perhaps the next month or so. We are working with our consultants from Arcadis on that. And I would turn the presentation tonight on our progress on this project to Bill Casey of Arcadis.
Great, thank you, Libby. Shall I share my screen? No, okay, we get it here. Okay, let me see here. Well, first of all, thank you for your time tonight. This is an update, as Libby indicated, for the alternative access and utility relocation for continuity of service for the Baxter Road residents. Really, the overall goal of the project is to make sure that there's a plan in place, should the unfortunate occur that Baxter Road is compromised by erosion. This is our brief agenda. I won't try to dwell on too many items, but I did want to give everyone an update. The next slide is our project team. My name is Bill Casey. I'm from Arcadis. And Vince Murphy will also be speaking tonight. I believe he's still in the room. For the goals tonight, for the next slide, please. Certainly to give an update on work that's been done since the last update in January. Looking to, hopefully achieve consensus from the select board. So we're able to move into final design a little bit more detailed level of what these access roads or access ways are going to look like. And then update the select board on the next steps of the project as we move into 2023. Say, overly simplified flow chart of the scope of work. The 3 boxes on the left were really work that's been ongoing in 2022. Development of a basis design report. We did field surveys. We did endangered species investigations. We held informational sessions with the homeowners and multiple engagements on that front. And we're looking forward to moving into 2023 to develop a shovel-ready set of construction documents. Next. So as of today, we've got the basis design reports have been uploaded to the town website. I think we kind of just reiterated a little bit of the field survey work. We had a little bit of work to do this spring that finished things up, and we should be out of there from a topographic front and moving forward into development of some accurate design level plans. We did receive some response back from a permitting notification form sent to Mass Historic Commission. They're further requesting an archaeological survey be performed on the area, as there's been known Native American artifacts have been historically documented in the area. The timing on that is to be determined, but hopefully we can move forward with that this spring. And then in follow-up to our January update, it was the select board's recommendation that we go back with the homeowners, as we really didn't have any definitive selection to have another meeting with all those involved. We determined to make the first step of that by developing a questionnaire, and then receive those responses of the questionnaire. And then we held a meeting the beginning of April 4th, to display those results of the questionnaire. And I'll go over that here in just a smidge. So this is just an excerpt of the questionnaire. I won't go through every question here, of course. Really, the first section of this was really to gauge the respondents' concern and awareness for erosion issues, and their indication and a belief of developing a plan was important. The second section really was to get a preference on the selected alternative access routes. And we had a third section that's not shown here that was really to obtain any individual utility information from the property owner. Go ahead next. I just wanted to recap the routes that have been documented in the basis design presented before. Certainly all the routes look very similar. They all have a fairly defined access from the north by the lighthouse and the golf course. It's been previously documented through a memorandum of understanding. And to the south, the utilities need to reconnect into a less vulnerable side of Baxter Road at the bottom through Bayberry. And really, the difference between the options is how the affected abutters essentially get to Sankaty Road. I'll go to the next. And then just furthermore about the individual routes, we've got the planning level cost estimates, A, B, and C at the bottom. And other noteworthy point on this slide is that we've had some good discussions with the planning department, and particularly with respect to access way width. In the basis of design report, we documented that we'd be planning for a 20-foot wide path, two-way access. Through those discussions with planning, we've been able to determine that some of those access ways may be able to be more of the shared driveway at a reduced width. So to be determined now. I'll go to the next one. And this is the results of the survey, if you will. On the left-hand side, you'll see that the vast majority of the respondents, believe that that is important to develop a plan. They are concerned with erosion, and particularly the vulnerability of Baxter Road. As we move to the pie chart on the right, it's more of a simplified version of the results with respect to the route. You can see there's no particularly overwhelming favorite, only a slight indication for option A of those responded. We have a fairly significant portion that did not respond. And then we have another portion of respondents that chose not to list a preference. The next slide displays these results graphically. You can see here that there's not necessarily an overwhelming unity on a selected option, and just a mere slight preference towards option A. However, as we move to the next slide, we do feel it's important to move forward into that next level of laying options out. Here we're recommending, after discussions with the town and having multiple meetings with the butters, option A really, I'm going to say is the option of least of the negative feedback, if you will, of the three options. And this is additionally, it is the lowest cost option. Granted, these are planning level estimates, but moving forward will allow us to really lay out the access ways kind of on a micro scale. The 2-scale drawings, we can move away from these GIS type figures where we're just dealing with polylines and really gain access to really see what it may look like and how individual lots are affected. On the next slide. This is assuming that we get a positive to move forward tonight. This is what a rough layout of development of the next level of plans, permitting, and this will all occur in 2023. Addition, there's a box on the right that just touches on funding. Of course, funding is very important here. It's noted that it could take up to a year to have something developed and put onto town meeting. So there's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of decisions to be made, but we do need to move forward. Next slide. Well, so we're hoping that our next steps will involve some boots on the ground running and development of plans, technical specifications. We have quite a bit of work to do on the permitting front. The archaeological survey is one aspect. There's additional notifications through the Endangered Species Act. There's going to be a notice of intent filing. There's a lot of work still to do on the permitting front in 2023. But with a, I guess, consensus on moving forward, that'll allow us to hone in on all these aspects. I believe the next slide, Vince, I think we wanted to just touch on the current status of the bluff.
Hello, Select Board members. Vince Murphy from the Natural Resources Department. We asked for this slide to be included to underline the necessity for this project. There's 9 locations that we undertake regular surveying and measuring from the edge of the road to the edge of the bluff where the drop-off is. The parts in blue are the unprotected areas, and the parts in red, orange, beg your pardon, are the areas that are above the geotubes that essentially have had no change or no real movement since the time they were installed. To underline some of the issues, location A at the north end has had a small amount of movement, but location number 1 at 105 Baxter Road, that has had some significant movement, and at last measurement in early March, mid-March, it was undercut and it is not looking healthy, for want of a better term. Other locations that have seen significant movement is location 5, that has had some movement over time but has been stable for a couple of years now. Essentially, this place, whether the geotubes remain or not, is at a tipping point, or approaching, I beg your pardon, approaching a tipping point whereby we are looking at getting close to that 25-foot marker that would see an engineering review to see if we should keep the road open or not. That location 1, which is only 36 feet, 11 feet from that, that long understood and long recognized tipping point. So that is an unprotected area, just so that everyone is fully aware. Staff and consultants have made the recommendation for option A. There are no perfect options in this. There's a lot of contention in this. We just need to progress with design. I would urge the board to please pick an option if at all possible. The staff and consultant recommendation is route A. I believe questions are next.
Any questions for Vince or the Arcadis?
I have one question for now. In your surveys, you only got about half of the back.
I think it was a little higher than half.
Yeah, but
20. I need to click on something here. Yep, so everything, the only ones that we got out of 22, of 16 of 22, 73%.
But wasn't there another pie chart of, I just saw when people voted on options, there was only about half the votes.
Correct. There were, if the person who's sharing could throw the presentation back up, or I could, there was a few parcels that recused themselves from voting. One of those was the golf club. It was indicated in yellow on the packet, and the lighthouse parcel also recused, and a few other, I believe it was 117. And then I believe 100 provided a qualified response.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, because she's missing questionnaires, no rating. Do you have any reason why we had missing questionnaires and no rating? Because we're only getting responses from half the people. Or ratings from half the people.
Some folks, the folks in yellow, they either recuse themselves from picking a particular option for reasons, unknown, whether they didn't feel they had a dog in the fight, so to speak, or others indicated, a preference for to keep the geotubes and decline to pick an option.
So you could look at that and say, only a quarter of the people involved won option A, for sure.
There's a slight preference, yeah, by no means overwhelming.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions from the board? Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, here's the question. If we pick any of them, say we pick A, and when the archaeological survey is done, or when you get in the field, let's say that it's too steep in one area, so you're running the road right in someone's backyard, will we have the option, the ability to work with the neighbors and adjust in the field if necessary?
I think we would adjust on paper through communication throughout the really 2023. As we move forward and kind of get, these access ways laid out on surveyed plans, we'll be able to have those discussions with individuals. And if something's really not going to work and something else unveils itself, we're going to have to be dynamic and work together and work through that, item as it arises. By no means is anything particularly set in stone. We have topographic survey of the entire area. And again, I don't know what something like an archaeological survey is going to unveil. I know that there have been several surveys done nearby in this area with the bike path and with the golf club. So to be determined on that front. Does that help answer?
Yeah, no, it does. It makes me more comfortable picking A and keeping this moving. So thank you.
Brooke?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we have to pick a path forward and figure out where we begin investing in the further investigation. And we can't do that with all three. We can't afford to do that with all three. So we need to pick one. So I'd like to hear if there's any public comment.
There is. I was just giving a chance for us to answer some questions.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thanks. My name is Hannah Judy, legally Gretz. I live year round, as does my son, at 111 Sankaty Road in Sconset. Before you make your final decision about option A versus option B to provide access for Baxter Road residents, I want to offer some thoughts. First, I would like to talk about the questionnaire. There were 22 people polled. Only 11 of those 22 properties are directly affected by the choice of A or B. Of the 6 votes for option A, you should understand that 3 of them are directly affected. The other 3 are not. The 3 that are not are 86, 114, and 120 Baxter Road. 86 has absolutely, there's no bearing on A or B. It doesn't affect them one way or another. For 114 and 120 Sankaty Road, Baxter Road, they're very close up to the lighthouse. There will be 2 more houses of traffic that would go along the Moo Road from where it joins the access road by 108, going out to the Pulpus Road. But this will not go directly in front of their houses. It will not change anything directly in front of their existence. So I want to make that clear. I know that 2 of the respondents that did not respond, 2 of the people were 98 and 96 Baxter Road. They are directly involved in option B. So they will be asked to give easements across their yards, and yet they did not respond to this questionnaire, just so you know that. So the decision before you boils down to this: whether traffic from 2 properties, 100 and 104 Baxter Road, will go north or south from the byway they both share. There are 2 constants between option A and option B. There will be an access road along the lower driveway of the Judy family property at 108 Baxter Road that will serve 2 to 3 properties. There will be an access road along the north side of the DePel Coringold property at 107 Sankaty Road that will serve 3 properties, which includes the DePel Coringold house at 92 Baxter Road. My front yard is across the property line from that second road. If you choose option B, that will add 2 properties worth of traffic along that lower driveway on one side of 108 Baxter Road. If you choose option A, that will add 2 properties worth of traffic along the property line of our Sankaty Road side yard, causing our property to be ringed by roads on 3 sides. The result will be 2 properties worth of Baxter Road traffic going along the side of our Sankaty Road property, and 5 properties worth of traffic, Baxter Road traffic, going along our front yard. Even if the proposed roads are kept appropriately entirely off of our Sankaty Road property, which I trust they will be, our life of 50 years in this quiet, peaceful spot will be completely altered by noise, traffic, headlights, loss of privacy to virtually all of our first floor bedrooms, outdoor shower. Our house is oriented to the east and south, exactly where option A roads will be. So our views will now include cars, trucks, pedestrians, bikes, whatever. The additional access roads caused by option A would still endanger my grandchild as she plays on the deck 45 feet from that property line. And God forbid, should she play in the yard, even closer. Now, if you were making the decision based on FEMA lines and projected erosion, that would be one thing. In fact, if you consider the FEMA lines, you would definitely choose option B and send those 2 houses of traffic north, as your investment of $34 million has a better chance of lasting longer to the north. Or say you were making the decision on the basis of fairness. You would consider who has the problem and who will be suffering the consequences. Is it fair to solve a Baxter Road and town problem by causing a Sankaty Road property to be surrounded by roads on not 1, but 2 new sides? Or say you were making the decision based on cost and ease of obtaining easements. I would think you would also choose option B. Why? Well, you would probably be able to obtain an easement across the east perimeter of the Judy-owned property at 115 Sankaty Road, of which I am a trustee. You would not have to disturb the swimming pools at 104 or 106 Baxter Road. You would not have to obtain cross-lot easements from 100 and 98 Baxter Road. You would not cause a shed at 98 Baxter Road to be moved, or possibly a garage at 100. And if the Baileys, who live at 100 Baxter Road, decide to move their main house, you would not be creating all this disruption for traffic from one house and one garage with an apartment above it. Moreover, I wonder how easy it will be for the town to obtain easements across the yards of the properties at 96 and 98 Baxter Road, as they did not even return the questionnaire that is helping to now determine their fate. 98 Baxter Road appears to be an investment short-term rental, and as I understand it, has been non-responsive through this whole process. I understand that the decision is now basically being made to recommend option A based purely on cost. First of all, a $400,000 difference on 34 million might be considered within a margin of error. Indeed, your cost estimate range for option A continues to be 24 million to 52 million. So this hardly seems like a firm basis on which to make a decision. How can you possibly know what compensation amounts will be negotiated with the 5 property owners involved in option A easements? Variance in easement compensation numbers alone could cause option A to be more expensive than option B. In conclusion, while I am normally a cooperative person and it is not my style to be obstreperous, let me just say that if the town goes forward with the choice of option A, it is of utmost importance to me and to my extended family that the Baxter Road access roads be kept entirely off our Sankaty Road land. It is also a priority that the access roads be dirt versus noisy gravel or noisy shell. We trust that the 10-foot wide shared drive with pull-offs allowed by the planning board will be used, and that the stand of native tupelos, which straddles the border of our land and 107 Sankaty Road, will be spared. I thought it was wonderful that you've just proclaimed your resolution to protect trees. You should also be aware of the following. Long-term, there's a strong likelihood that 108 Baxter Road will be used as a rental property, if that's allowed still, or sold to finance the other Judy family properties' continued existence. Moreover, for the town to get an easement across the Judy family property at 108 Baxter Road, an access road, which will happen under either option A or B, it turns out to be more complicated than originally thought. My brother, John Judy, and my daughter will have to sign off on any 108 Baxter Road easement as co-trustees of the property. However, as my brother, John Judy, and his wife, Sonny Judy, only have lifetime occupancy rights to 108 Baxter Road, but the houses and the land are actually owned in trust for my 3 children and my sister's 2 children. My sister, Carol Cronin, and I also have to legally consent to any easement across the 108 Baxter Road property. Thank you for your attention and for your consideration.
Thank you. We go to the next one. We go next, David Bailey.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak. I wasn't sure that we were going to be able to. My wife Dorothy and I own a house at 100 Baxter Road. And as you just heard in this presentation, it was indicated that we did not, provide a ranking, or at least that ranking wasn't clear. We feel that that is inaccurate. We did provide a ranking. It was in our cover note that went with the questionnaire. For us, clearly option C is the best. We realized and noted in our cover note that there was not a lot of enthusiasm for option C. Our second choice was option B. I believe the map that Arcadis presented only shows the first choice. In any event, our second choice was option B. Access from the north ends at the way between us and 104 Baxter, limiting the impact on our property. Our last choice, and what we ranked last, was option A, because it's obviously, as you can see, the most damaging to our property, just given how close the access road would be to our structures, or both our structures on the property. We brought this to Vince's attention and the team on Monday. And you should know too that we met in January with Vince and Ken to discuss our views that are consistent with what we represented in the questionnaire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Could we go to John, Judy?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Option A, I think, is the least way to address this problem. If you look at it, we really need to have a big thank you to the golf club for providing really what is the important artery into our properties. I just want to point out that, you know, we are on board with our neighbors, and I recognize that there's a big burden placed on David Bailey to take his neighbor 104 to the north. I'm sorry, to the south. But I want him to recognize there's a big burden on me taking 106 and 110 on my driveway, you know, out to the north. I know this isn't an easy decision for you to make. And I think it's important to realize that we're in that situation where we're trying to lose gracefully here because the ocean's going to win. So I urge you to the simplest, least disruptive plan, which is the option A. It preserves the properties of my neighbors for the most part. It burdens 108 by bringing them down our driveway, directly down our driveway. And it burdens the Bailey family by taking one neighbor across the back of their yard. And I know that that all comes out in the wash when this all has to be figured out and paid for. But option A, I think, is the way to go. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Vince, so some questions of, I understand the homeowners' concerns, and if we end up being option C, it'll be different people talking about their concerns, as they should. And if we start going through this process, I doubt that it's going to be exactly what is right there, right? We're going to find out things, work with the homeowners, find different solutions.
Correct.
How do we, I mean, I trust you. I know you'll do this, but I don't own a home there. So, I mean, how do we, whichever option, like, how do we make the homeowners feel comfortable that we will do everything we can to accommodate them, but it's going to have to go next to somebody's house. So
there's a couple of ways of looking at this. So when we initially started this project, we thought we'd have a rough route selected by last August. And we spent all summer negotiating and trying to work with all the homeowners in the area, trying to work out what might be an accommodatable route. And that led from 1 to 3 different options that you see on the board tonight. And then in a roundabout way, we just ended back up at 1 after looking at after analyzing some of the components of it. But when we get to designing this properly, Bill has already kind of said this. It's going to be a 20-foot wide corridor is what we're looking at, but we're going to have like a 10-foot wide corridor is what we're actually going to construct after we spoke to Andrew Vorsa Planning. And within that kind of corridor, there's wiggle room, and you have to have passing areas as well, of course, but there's wiggle room. We can move things a little bit and we can shift a bit. And if neighbors are amenable to it, the whole corridor could shift to accommodate one person, try and help out, and try and make sure that people see the least impact. We've had a lot of conversations with neighbors about traffic volume passing by, about headlights coming in, second floor bedroom windows, about where family pets are buried, where propane tanks are. We have a pretty clear understanding of these areas, and we have looked at all of the problems we can understand. Then there's still a couple we can't, because we have to do the archaeological surveys, which might cause more movement and more kind of wiggle left and right, or east and west as the case may be. But that's certainly something we can try and move through with neighbors, and we will try and negotiate that out as best as possible. But I don't want to sugarcoat that. We're going to have to also recognize that once we do this, there might be 2 neighbors that don't agree. And how do you go down and divide that property line evenly or not, as the case may be? and how can we work with everyone? We're already looking at a project overrun, time-wise at least, and in other ways as well, but that's something we can work on. So we can try and further work with property owners, but we need something to study. And that's the kind of reason why we're here. We've brought this in January, I think last November as well, with ideas on route selection. And, I could be back in July again talking about route selection, and we could manage a full year of this if you wish. But essentially, unless we have something to start with, we're just going to keep spinning our wheels. But option A, nobody said it's perfect. There are problems with every one of these options and every other permutation you can probably put in. And every neighbor, to some extent, has all said, well, I don't want to see too much impact or any impact on my property in varying different ways. But we still have to give everybody in this area access out to Sankaty Road so that they can safely have egress from their properties and get the critical services like sewer, water, electric, and telecommunications all on, so that this area can continue to be useful. We just need some starting point. And after, 8-9 months of somewhat slow to no progress, we just need to find something to move with.
Thank you, Vince.
And one more question. Well, Vince, you have an impossible job as a non-homeowner or someone with no biases. How can you summarize why option A is the best? In a few words.
In a few words, it's the least linear footage. It is the lowest cost of all three. It's the least environmental impact in terms of, native habitats. And I don't mean to be flippant on this, and there's no good option, like I said. And I hate to say this out loud even, it's the fewest people that are likely to object. And I say that knowing full well what some of the Judy family have said here tonight.
Yeah, I always get concerned when you say lowest cost was pointed out, because there's a wide standard deviation of costs for all three. So if it's least people impacted, environmental issues, that's a better argument for me than lower costs, because they're all kind of within that same Nantucket range.
Appreciate that, but we have to look out for local tax.
I understand. You have the finance director sitting right behind you, so.
Thank you, Vince. Can we go to the next one? You have a hand up.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. We can hear you.
To your question,
Can you please state your name?
Sonny Judy,
Thank you.
resident at 108 Baxter Road. To the question just presented, why option A might be better. Obviously, it's resident at a major impact point. I have a bias, but we're talking about the difference of sharing a road through our yard or a way through our yard between 4 residences, where once was a private driveway, to sharing it with 7 to 10 residences. And that's a huge difference in the impact on 108 Baxter and its immediately adjacent neighbor, 110 Baxter. And it has some spillover effects also on the northern access road from the lighthouse to Sankaty Road, because every additional residence that exits to the north adds congestion to a road that can expect quite a bit of public traffic and neighbor traffic. And it lets out at an intersection directly opposite the golf course. So from the standpoint of the homeowner, I would rather share my driveway with between 4 dwellings rather than 7 or more. I'd rather minimum vegetation in the piece of road that goes south from the byway nearest to our residence. It's just a simpler solution. None of the options are attractive. We understand that. We understand that you have many complex problems to resolve. But this seems like a good compromise with cooperative neighbors at the north end if we stick with a manageable number of residences exiting north.
Thank you. Board, have any questions or would like to make a motion, discuss anything?
I'm prepared to make a motion to support option A.
Are you preparing or is that the motion?
No, I'm making a motion to support
Okay.
option A.
Just trying to be clear.
Sorry. Yeah.
Second, for discussion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Second by Dawn.
One just comment that we all understand that option A, it's really option A with adjustments as necessary.
Yeah, I think it has to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Matt, anything from you?
Nope, I support it.
Okay, Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say when the Old South Bike Path went in, I was working at the planning board and all of the easements were negotiated, mitigated. There was a real effort to work with the property owners to have the least impact. So hopefully we'll follow the same path. But I'll go with the recommendation.
I agree. I trust Vince and the team to do that. And I also understand if I was the homeowner there, I'd be here at the microphone as well. So I think, yeah, I'm okay going forward. Are you ready for a vote?
Go.
Okay. All those in favor by roll call. Dawn,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Jason, aye. Thank you all. Thank you. Your comments. Yeah. Oh, monthly. Go ahead, Libby.
The monthly manager's report is in your packet, and I don't typically go through every little bit of it, but just some of the highlights are we've been spending a lot of time, obviously, the last few weeks preparing for town meeting and the election. The voter's guide is out. It's posted online and it will be available at the town meeting. That contains some explanations for the town sponsored articles and some other information about town meeting. I've met with some community groups, Rotary. Several staff people participated in Meet the Articles with the Civic League last week. That is also posted online. I met with the Nantucket Town Association yesterday. The Finance Committee had an informational session yesterday as well. Our informational videos and social media outreach are well underway. Lots of videos on the website. And I mentioned earlier, the April edition of the Town Manager e-news is dedicated to the town meeting, and that will be put out tomorrow. A lot of personnel issues going on, hiring and retention and recruitment are high priorities. We have a number of initiatives underway. With respect to those things, we have the class and comp study, which is wrapping up, and we hope to present that to you in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We do have a high number of vacancies. We have 47 as of yesterday, I think, or today. And we are again working our best to fill those, but it's quite difficult. The hiring process is underway for the DPW director, the police chief, the solid waste manager, the chief technology officer, to name a few of the high level department head positions that are going to be challenging to fill. And bargaining is underway. And as I think we all know, we are focusing on compensation, as that is something that is going to need to be addressed as we need to use compensation increases as a way to attract and retain employees. Baxter Road, long-term planning and the erosion control project, we just spent enough time on that, I think, but that is taking a significant amount of staff time. I'm just going through the higher level thing. Solid waste long-term planning is very much ongoing. And we are hoping to give the board an update at your meeting next week about some of our long-term planning initiatives there. The strategic plan We are working on a departmental resources needs list. What do the departments need to implement the goals that are contained in the board strategic plan? And we're prepping for a joint meeting with the select board, planning commission, finance committee, and capital program committee on June 12th. And that is intended to be a facilitated meeting to review the board strategic plan and make sure there are no conflicts with any of the plans or initiatives with any of those other boards. The board is also getting a townwide PFAS risk assessment update at your meeting next week. We are starting to hold regular meetings to refine our sustainability framework. Those are chaired by Mr. Murphy as the town sustainability program manager. In addition to his other full-time job to deal with Baxter Road and the erosion control project. Stormwater and drainage issues remain rather constant through concerns and complaints from residents where those are issues, and we are working to address those, but it is very much challenging because of the lack of project management resources to get things done. We do have a lot of projects underway. Those are listed on the last page there. I guess I could have combined those two things. And housing is a significant part of a significant and growing part of town administration's day-to-day operations, really. We have several initiatives underway, including the $1 million town employee housing assistance pilot program, the rental assistance program. We're working on a plan for how we manage our own rental properties, not the ones we own, but also the ones we're renting. That's becoming quite challenging. We're working on some concepts to develop lots on Tacoma Way that the town owns that is next to the Six Fairgrounds project. It's a Tacoma Green project. Not Tacoma Green. What's it called? It's called Tacoma Green, right? Yeah. Okay. Surfside Crossing, obviously that's taking quite a bit of time. And there's a housing summit sponsored by Housing Nantucket this Friday from 9:30 to 2:30. It's for town staff and others. It's not public, but I expect we're going to spend a lot of time obviously talking about housing. And it sounds like it's going to be fairly similar to the design thinking workshop that we had last year for coastal resiliency projects. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Libby? Okay. Thank you, Libby, for that report. Select board reports and comments. Approval of statement regarding petition short-term rental warrant articles for the 2023 annual town meeting. This is continued from April 12th. I think we have that in our packets. Any comment?
I have comments.
Sure.
I'm a little concerned with this because I think it's not exactly what we had talked about in the past. In the final paragraph, that's why I was confused last week when it said unanimous votes. I went back to the April 26th meeting. We actually didn't vote. We kind of had a discussion, and it was not to adopt, it was to take no action. So this is morphed a little bit. And I was quite happy to support the concept, a neutral concept, where essentially the select board had commissioned a group to work on it, let them work on it. The other thing that bothers me is the first paragraph. It's now become actually an endorsement against the articles, not to take a more neutral aspect. Because all of the wonderful things that our town council said 2 meetings ago were never really challenged by anybody else. There's always two sides to a story. There's always two sides to a legal argument. And we really didn't give any opportunity for a challenge. And that's fine. But not to put it in here, it's almost become a non-paid political advertisement. And I don't think that's appropriate for this board to be making. So I just can't accept this.
Thank you, Malcolm.
And I'm not sure we need it, actually, quite frankly. There's been enough discussion. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watch us. Well, I'm sorry. We're not Downton Abbey, but at least people do watch us at times and they know exactly what we're talking about. My objection is, well, I just gave you my objections. it's morphed. It's not what we talked about.
Okay. Anyone else? Dawn?
I mean, I have a fundamental concern with putting out anything that, in regard to town meeting, that from this board that doesn't have unanimous support. So I think maybe we shouldn't do a press release. I mean, I will say people did hear it. I know that the Monomoy Civic Association actually fully listened to it and actually reversed their position to be more neutral, which was interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Matt?
Yeah, no, I hadn't really thought of it quite from the perspective that Malcolm just shared, and he has some good points. I'd be interested to see what the work group is, the short-term rental work group is going to propose. And if theirs is less less a PR and more neutral, then maybe we sign on to that and we discuss that once we see their version.
Okay. Brooke?
I hear what Malcolm said, and I also heard Stacy say earlier that they're hearing a lot that people don't really know what's going on, and perhaps maybe a statement that's less about the articles at this town meeting, because our comments are already there, and more about the work group process that's in action, to reinforce that is happening, and getting that word out. I mean, I keep hearing that people don't know. And so that's why I proposed the idea of doing this at our last meeting. So, but I do hear what Malcolm is saying, and I agree with Dawn that if we're not unanimous, we shouldn't put anything out. So.
I think I always like to have 5-0 votes, but sometimes we can't get things unanimous. So are we just like, we don't want to do this at all? Or is there any edits to, take out the last sentence of the first paragraph? Is there a couple of things we could do to make it neutral?
I just wanted to make one technical point. You didn't meet on April 19th, so that date should be changed to April 12th.
I'm sorry, what?
The opening paragraph says that you had a meeting on April 19th, but we didn't meet last week, so it should be April 12th.
As I was saying, is there a sentence or two we can take out to make it more neutral? So I'm hearing you, Malcolm, say we'd rather take no action and just to not vote on any short-term rental articles, but not specifically call out that we're against specific ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if we have time to do it. There's here it talks about data that will be available. We heard today that the data may not necessarily be available. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to spend all night rewording it. I mean, I think the message to the people is that we should perhaps do our own little homework and not rely on advertisements that have unvetted, sometimes improper information. And at least town meeting will be a great opportunity for me personally, because I can hear both sides debate, hopefully in a civil manner, where they'll have an opportunity to respond in a timely fashion to various arguments. So that's my personal perspective. I'm not sure we need to do anything, quite frankly.
Yeah. I think I'm okay either way. I think, was it you, Don, or we usually say, like, we get to talk every Wednesday night all year, right? We shouldn't say much at annual town meeting. That's for the voters. And we can clarify things here and there, but to not push it. But the other side is, I would like to clarify that our position is to wait for the short-term rental group. By essence is saying, don't vote these through, but you just want to leave out the last part.
I would take out the first part and the last part. I mean, what we agreed to April 26th, and I actually looked at the tape twice because I had to make sure I was correct. Because that's why I was confused last time. I said, well, we didn't vote. Well, actually, we all agreed, but we didn't vote. It's a
Yeah,
technicality.
I got to apologize because I said we did, but we actually, it was the vote.
And it's just, this whole thing is more of not adopt. We said took no action. So again, I don't want to spend all night rewriting it. My recommendation is, all right, maybe we'll see what the working group says.
Do we put something out that just talks about that they're deep into the process and they are planning to have articles ready for the fall town meeting? That will have broader support, something like that. I mean, if it's kind of about recognizing where we were coming from, but not fully saying don't vote for those specific articles.
You could not say that. You could put in an annual town meeting last year, it was voted through to create this initiative.
Yeah.
And it will be done in the fall.
Yeah.
Special town meeting.
I-
Matt, sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. I would be comfortable with something like that.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, I'm not sure, was it Brooke? Someone made a comment earlier about the misinformation, and I think that is true. I talked to some people who are so far off on 60, they think, they'll tell me their situation, I'll go, this wouldn't in fact impact you at all. But they're convinced that it'll be the end of the world. And so, and it could be, and vice versa, I'm sure. But it's just interesting that, the misinformation that is now out there is rampant. And people are claiming things that are just clearly not true. And so, I'm not sure that anything we put out is going to change the, sort of the misinformation that's being shared.
I think for me, the greatest goal is to remind the community on a broader level. And, hopefully if as opposed to our meetings and, while we have a decent audience, if the idea of a press release was to perhaps get a larger audience to understand that there is a process underway. To me, that's the most important thing, that a special town meeting has been scheduled and that there is a working group that's been meeting now 11 times to evaluate the options regarding short-term rentals for Nantucket and to come up with proposed articles for that already scheduled town meeting. And maybe it's just as simple as that. And hope that it gets a bit broader audience than the process is getting, because I am getting perpetual feedback from that people are not aware that there is an alternative path to addressing the short-term rental issue beyond the articles that are on the warrant and for annual town meeting.
And Mr. Chair, that'd be nice, but I'm not sure that message would get to anybody else that doesn't already have the message. I mean, the people who read the Current and read Daybreak and read the Inquirer, if they don't know there's a short-term rental working group, then they have a real literacy problem.
Well, I disagree on that part, but let me make one proposal. I know you want to move on. You don't want to doctor this up. What if we eliminated the first and last paragraph? Are we okay putting that out? Because that's pretty, not to adopt. We're agreeing with the planning board. Gives a little bit of background of the short-term rental group that was voted on last year. It's a little more neutral, which is what you're looking for. So just a second, third paragraph.
Some of the data may not be available. We just heard that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we could remove the sentence in addition, the Nantucket Association.
Yeah, well, no one can object to that paragraph without some comment about we won't have all the data by the time we have town meeting. Or we won't have it maybe by June. There's no way I can object to that.
Yeah, I'm fine with the two middle paragraphs. It's more neutral.
I thought we had the second paragraph only, right?
Yeah, I said second, third, and remove the first and last. There's 3 paragraphs. Or 4.
Well, the factual is the town, it would be the select board. Well, we didn't vote. Supported not take no action. We did not support not to adopt.
So if that's incorrect, what is in the planning board motion? Because my understanding is we agreed to support the planning board motions. Our comments that are printed in the warrant state that we support the planning board motion. Whatever that says is what should be in here.
Yeah, Erica, can we?
Because if
confirm?
you go back to the 26th and listen to the meeting, that's not what we said.
So,
Well, we said to whatever the planning board said, but is it not to adopt or is it take no action? The planning board.
I can read you the minutes from the March 22nd meeting when you adopted your select board comments.
Yep.
Chair Bridges suggested the board consider comments as to taking no action on any of the short-term rental articles. Ms. Moore agreed, Mr. Fee agreed, and reviewed current comments from the planning board on these articles. The board agreed to add comments to indicate that it supports the planning board motions to these articles 59 through 61.
We didn't, whatever. So what is the planning board motion? Is it to not to adopt or is it take no action?
Sounds like it was, we said take no action, but were we reading that out of the one?
It's like two different things. There's,
I mean, they're effectively do the same thing, but it's the language is.
I'm not a lawyer,
Has a
but
different
you
meaning.
could start arguing over what each of those statements mean, but.
Are we talking about 58, 59, 60? 58?
59, 60, and 61.
Okay, 59's planning board motion is moved not to adopt. 60's planning board motion is moved not to adopt. 61's planning board motion is moved not to adopt, and they have comments, and the select board comments are the select board supports the planning board motion and comment for all 3 of those.
so that third paragraph is correct. Right, we did vote to support planning board motion and they are not to adopt. All right.
I just don't know if they were unanimous votes.
It wasn't a vote, it was a discussion, and there was no opposition.
Okay.
Right.
I don't see the problem with paragraphs 2 and 3. Minute.
Yeah, and that night we hadn't noticed 58, so we couldn't really discuss it. I have since talked to Linda and asked her about it, what her intent is, and it's that people who own homes can rent to people in their home. I'm not sure that's exactly what it says, so I have a question into town council about that to ensure it, because that might need to be clarified. So, so that wasn't in, that's not in here, but it is something that may have impact on, sort of on, that we'll talk about on town meeting floor, I assume.
John, do you want to comment on that? John, I think you're muted.
Sorry, apologize for that. Matt, I did send an email this afternoon to Libby, so you should be getting that, where I addressed your specific questions with respect to Article 58.
Thank you, John. That's great.
I also want to make sure that I have the article numbers from 22 are correct. The ones that were referred. That are referenced in paragraph 2.
I'll have
I
to
would
look
say
at it.
subject to confirming those.
Yeah. So where are we?
Here we are. Our chairman left us.
Well, I know where he stands, but
Yes, I know. You're in charge.
is everyone else okay with paring it down to be those 2 paragraphs with those clarifications?
I am.
Malcolm,
Your specific question?
are you okay with us releasing those 2 paragraphs?
The first one I'm very comfortable with. And you kind of got me stuck here between because I supported no action and not to adopt. So I think it's a moot point, whatever it is, quite frankly. I'm still not sure why we need to do this. You haven't convinced me yet.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we do need to do this, but
If it, for me, if it helps 10 people for whatever reason, think it through, and maybe they didn't know. I'm not surprised anymore of things that people don't know that we've been working on for a year or 2 months. These people are busy, and I don't think there's any illiteracy involved. Maybe it'll help. So if it's, yeah, if we don't want to do
I
it,
just want,
go ahead, Brooke.
I would just like what I believe we agreed to as a board be iterated as an alternative to the noise.
I just step out for a second. Was that paragraph 2 and 3, or do we?
Yes.
Yeah, Malcolm has concerns with paragraph 3 still.
That's what happens.
So, yeah.
I know this feels convoluted, but this is open meeting law. Like, we can't get together at the tap room and work this out. You know, like, we have to do it here if we want to do something.
Well, I would say, I mean, the fact of the matter is, in the warrant, there are select board comments that support the planning board motion and finance committee motion. That is printed in the warrant.
Was that enough?
To me, that's enough.
Enough for Malcolm.
So just rephrase the second paragraph to state that the select board supported the planning board's motion regarding these articles. In order to give the short-term rental working group time to complete its work and present a comprehensive set of warrant articles for the special town meeting already scheduled for November 7th, 2023. Does that help?
I can't object to that
Malcolm?
because that is what the select board has publicly published. I think we're just repeating ourselves, but.
Yeah, I'm okay with
And
that.
I think it bears repetition.
Brooks' comments is what we actually have done as a board. And repeating that, I can't object to. And some little comment about, you mentioned about the date in paragraph 2, and then this is just fact. So it's fact. Fact is fact.
So we're okay putting paragraph 2 and 3 out?
With
Yes.
those amendments.
So can I just be clear on the amendments?
Yep.
Paragraph 2 is as printed, except for, I just looked it up, the STR related articles were articles 42 and 43. And then paragraph 2 now, the new paragraph 2, currently paragraph 3, will say, following the discussion, the select board supported the planning board's motions not to adopt these articles, and they keep all the rest. Yes?
I think so. Brooke, is that what you suggested?
Yeah. Yep, that works for me if Malcolm's comfortable with that.
Okay, so moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? All those in favor by roll call? Don?
Aye.
Malcolm?
Aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jason, aye. Thank you for digging through that. Thank you, Malcolm.
I almost said no just to mess you up, Jason, but I had to say aye.
I'm surprised you said aye. Whenever you say aye, I'm kind of throws me. Next
You
up,
wonder what's up.
Review amend select board agenda protocol regarding public comment. Get Mr. Giorgio to walk us through here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you have on the screen your existing agenda protocol with red line changes. And these changes were prepared by my office in response to the recent decision of the Supreme Judicial Court that found that if a municipal board chooses to allow public comment, you have to be mindful of what's known as the Declaration of Rights under the Massachusetts Constitution, which is in many ways similar to the federal Constitution. But it essentially allows citizens to petition their government in an orderly and peaceable manner. And the problem in the South Borough case was that the chair of the select board there essentially shut off discussion by a member of the public that was concerned about certain open meeting law violations and some other issues in town. And Southborough had a public comment protocol that included provisions that, for example, said that the discussion had to be civil, and I'm paraphrasing now. And the court found that those limitations essentially violated the Declaration of Rights under the Massachusetts Constitution. And the court said essentially that while we can certainly hope that public discourse is civil, you cannot mandate that as part of your public participation policy. So we've prepared the red line versions that you see in front of you, and we're confident that with those changes, your public participation policy will comply with the guidance provided by the Supreme Judicial Court in the Southbridge case. And we're recommending that the board consider adopting these changes. It's very, very difficult to control the tenor of debate and discussion. And when you start attempting to regulate, public comment based upon, civility and whatnot, you run afoul of the Declaration of Rights, and you have to be concerned with how you apply that policy in the future in terms of, debate by individuals that you might not agree with or may have a manner of speaking that is not deemed to be civil. But once you start going down that road, there's a real possibility that you're going to violate someone's either First Amendment rights or the Declaration of Rights under the Massachusetts Constitution. So you'll see that we have adopted the orderly and peaceable manner standard that is contained, as I said, in the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. And we have taken out references, for example, to defamatory language. And also, there's a provision in your current protocol that limits comments to matters that are within the select board's jurisdiction. But I would note that earlier today, tonight, there were a number of comments about the vaping issue at the Nantucket Public Schools. And that is the kind of thing that you really can't restrict based upon your jurisdictional authority. And so in the future, the board the board's policy should not distinguish between matters that are within the board's jurisdiction as opposed to other town boards that are matters of general concern. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the recommended changes. At
Thank you,
this
John.
time,
Matt, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. And I'm fine with this for us, but it made me start thinking about town meeting and, Sarah does a really good job of, making sure they aren't personal attacks, that they aren't using people's names and they're not, calling each other dumb or stupid or anything like that. Will she still be able to do that? Or is this a free for all? Does this apply to town meeting or does this?
well, Matt, as usual, that's a fantastic question from you. The court did not address town meeting. And I know there's been a lot of discussion in the blogosphere about to what extent it applies to town meeting. Town meeting's a little bit different because the moderator by statute is charged with making all rulings with regard to order at town meeting. I just anecdotally saw an email today from Sarah where she acknowledged the Southbridge decision. And I think she's very mindful of not making any rulings that would cut off the right of individuals to speak their mind at town meeting. But obviously, if someone gets up there and is not orderly or peaceable, I think that my advice to her would be that same standard should apply to town meeting as well, even though the Southbridge decision did not specifically address town meeting. So I think you have a moderator who's very cognizant of this decision. And I think we'll probably, I would expect that she would apply the same standards with respect to, that were expressed with respect to select board comments to town meeting discussions as well.
Yeah, John, I don't think she can, because what this says is somebody can come up here, public comment, and can just ream me personally left and right. And if it's not a true threat, which it'd be very hard to make something a true threat, we got to let it go. And that's fine for me because I'm elected officials and that can happen. But it's when someone's going after a town employee or a director, department head, something like that. We've always been very defensive of that. When they're going after them personally, the way this is written now, we just have to let it go.
Yes.
And so my question is, what is a true threat? And can you give me some examples of what a true threat would be? Like to my life, to someone's well-being?
Yes. I mean, that's a really difficult thing to define, Jason.
Yeah.
But obviously, if someone stands up and says, Mr. Chairman, I really disagree with what you're proposing, and I think you should be strung up, or I'm going to take a gun and shoot you, or any other kind of lawless conduct is certainly something that we could shut down even during a public comment period. In my years of serving as town council, I've never seen public comment rise to that or lower to that level. And it's sort of like what Justice Brennan said when talking about pornography. You sort of know, you can't define it, but you know it when you see it. And I do think, though, that the board should not attempt to shut down speech just because you disagree with it or that it's painful to hear. As public officials, I think you have to let all that go. But
I think we do that. Yeah, I think we do that fine.
You do that very well. Yes, I was just about to say that. But if somebody got up and in an extreme situation threatened the life or personal safety of you or a member of your family or a town employee, then I think that's a very different circumstance.
The other question I have is each speaker may not exceed 3 minutes. That's new. That's just, why was that changed? May not exceed 3 minutes. Can we do that?
Yes, that what the court said, and it's sort of a bedrock principle of First Amendment law, that you can make reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on speech as long as you apply it equally across the board. I mean, we're now at 3 hours into this meeting, and there was quite a lot of discussion during public comment. The board has very important business to conduct. You have an agenda. You have town meeting coming. There's lots of things you need to talk about and deal with. So putting a limitation on the length of time that people may speak during public comment is a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. But you should apply that across the board and not cut people off on the ruse of, well, you're now speaking for 4 minutes, when in fact you allowed other people with whom you might agree to speak for that length of time. So
I
you
would
have
say-
to apply it evenly without regard to the content of the speech.
Thank you, John. I have found that very challenging as chair. For example, tonight, the issue was very passionate about it. It was very important. And I knew 3 minutes isn't going to be enough, right? So you let it go, but then maybe somebody else doesn't feel they have enough time. And so it is a challenge. And if I have to turn into like the Bobby Plans or Bell at 3 minutes every time, I feel like that's not really allowing people to be heard. So I think we just got to feel it out.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Chair. That was the question I'm going to ask. I think 3 minutes is not enough. You're going to get in trouble at some point. Can we make it 5?
Well, there was a time where we had, I think during the fire department issue, where there was probably 30 people that wanted to talk. And then I was pretty strict about 3 minutes because I wanted to make sure everybody could be heard, because some people would have had to leave eventually. So that kind of, when there's that many people, you can kind of be a little more strict about it.
Yeah. My sense is 3 minutes is going to get you in trouble if you start mandating it.
Well, if you do it, then you have to do it all the time.
That's why I'm not sure that's fair to our citizens. Sometimes you just need 3.5 minutes.
You give them 3.5, but then somebody else doesn't get 3. That's you get trouble the other way.
You're going to get
Dawn, what are you going to say?
However you do it.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
I think it's reasonable because people could always submit additional questions through in writing, or can come to a subsequent meeting, or if I would think you could have 3 minutes if you're bringing up more than one thing. I don't know. I mean, I did see it's late and we still have more stuff. It's 8:30.
Right. Brooke?
Jason, I don't want to belabor the point. I think 3 minutes is reasonable. Given that there can be times when there's so many people that we need to have a limit. John, can you cap public comment at a total of X minutes in an agenda?
I would not recommend that, Brooke.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to necessarily cut some people off. I think you just have to suffer through it, but I think 3 minutes is a reasonable amount of time. You could make it 5 minutes, but you have to apply it evenly, regardless of how difficult or painful or hurtful the comments may be to you and the board members, either in your official capacity or personally. You just have to suck that up and apply it evenly, whether it's 3 or 5 minutes. That would be my recommendation. Choose one of those.
Okay. Sorry, Erica.
Sorry, I just wanted to know, the 3 minutes isn't really new. It was just taken out of the previous paragraph and made kind of a separate little bullet point. But you've already voted on 3 minutes when we redid this policy a while ago.
The language just changed a little bit. It said not to exceed.
Yeah,
That's the only
I'm
difference.
just saying the 3 minutes was already there. It's just a little worded differently this time.
Okay. Any other comments? Are we ready to adopt this? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
I have nothing all that interesting to say. I just wanted to mention that I think there's a word missing in the paragraph that starts I know. The chair of the meeting may not interrupt speakers who have been recognized to speak, except that the chair reserves the right to terminate speech, which is not, and then I think it should say protected under the United States Constitution and the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights.
Yeah, that's correct, Sarah. The protected was stricken out and it should be not protected under the United States Constitution.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my only contribution tonight, but I'll have lots to say at town meeting.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
So if we're ready to, we'll motion to approve it with adding the protected.
Yeah.
So
motion.
moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor by roll call, Don,
Aye.
Malcolm,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Jason, aye. That passes. Any other committee reports, comments at the end? We still have county to do. Yes, I'm sorry. Go, I'm gonna let you speak. You were waiting the whole time for short-term rentals. And I even, when I walked by, I even said, I'll get to you in a second, and I forgot. So you want to speak? I'm sorry, it's too late now.
Thank you. Yes, it is too late now. I was going to wave my arms and
Sorry.
stuff, but Kathy Baird, I just wanted to say that the real reason I feel, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, I am a member of the short-term rental work group, but to me, the real need for that public statement is the support from the town for the work that that group has been doing all winter long, and making sure that people are aware of it, because they're not. They really are not. And if you can point them, and you can't do this now, but just pointing them to the website, which has the charter there for what we were supposed to do. And we were supposed to be doing consensus, fact-based policymaking, and consider the impacts to the island. And we needed to have the data to do that. And I think we will have enough data to do it. I think everybody feels confident there'll be enough information there to go on that's from independent sources to do that. But the real thing really, I think, is not about the articles or vote not to adopt or anything. It's more about public support for the work we're doing and reminding people that that's what we were set up to do. And please let us finish. So I don't know if that part got removed, but
I think
That's
I
what
think what you wanted is what in essence went out.
okay. But people also don't understand that we couldn't just make decisions without data. That wasn't allowed in the charter.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting the whole night to speak, and I missed you at the end. Sorry. Any other comments or committee reports?
Motion to adjourn the select board meeting.
Before we leave, Don, one real quick. I didn't have a chance to speak when you were talking about the bumper sticker. That was entirely inappropriate. I agree. I have concerns though, that I've been around a while, and I think the strong support for housing in the last few years is an anomaly. That has not been the way we as a community have acted. And I'm not sure that the support is as sort of deep and wide as some of us think it is. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just a warning that I think that that bumper sticker is kind of along those lines that are my concerns. So I think we have to, sort of be aware of that in a lot of our decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Just one quick, is there like an echo or something? It's sometimes hard to hear people speak. It gets echoey. Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh, just one quick thing. I really like the new banners that are on the screen.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Yeah, it looks really good. So
NCTV
whoever
theme.
okay. Good job.
Charles.
Okay, so motion to adjourn the select board meeting.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call,
Aye.
Don, Malcolm,
Yes.
Brooke, Matt,
Aye.
Aye.
Jason, aye. Okay. On to county.
Don't
Brooke.
go anywhere. We're going to do county. Yep. Okay, so I will call to order the April 26th County Commissioners meeting and announce that this County Commission meeting is being audio and video recorded. Is there any public comment for items not on the county agenda at this time? I see a hand raised There it goes. Okay, any new business? Okay, next on the agenda is approval of minutes and warrants. Minutes from March 22nd and payroll and treasury warrants for April of 2023.
So moved.
Motion. Second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Don Holgate,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Hi.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, next on the agenda is a request for approval and execution of assent to petition to recognize the 1975 order of taking of Derrymore Road and approve the registration of a subdivision plan of lot 10, showing lot 1, 2, and 3 on land court plan number 13199-8 for 78 Cliff Road. Vicky?
Good evening. So before you is a request for approval and execution of this assent that is for a petition to subdivide, for plan approval for a subdivision of lot 10. Derrymore Road was taken by the county in 1975, and the land court has instituted a process in which if there's a subdivision of a lot that is bounded by a road that has been taken by either the town or the county, that they will be looking for an assent from the county stating that they support the subdivision, that there is no adverse effect to the county by the subdivision of this lot. I've reviewed the petition, I've reviewed the order of taking and the plans, and in my opinion, there is no adverse effect to the county by the subdivision of this lot. Therefore, I would recommend that you can vote to approve and execute the assent by the county.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners?
Motion to approve the assent.
Second.
A motion from Don, second from Malcolm by roll call. Don?
Aye.
Holgate, Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That's unanimous. Okay, and then we are considering really the same thing we considered for the town that Brian presented to us. Is the board comfortable to move forward with this, or do you have any questions for the finance director?
Anything different, Brian, at all?
No.
Okay,
It's the same.
Motion to approve.
second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Don Holgate,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, and then again, we have a redux of the protocol regarding public comment. Since we've already discussed it on the town level, any questions or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Don Holgate,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That's unanimous. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Don Holgate,
Aye.
Malcolm McNabb,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That is unanimous. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Have a good night. Thanks, Vicky.